shining star shine, a world that exists way different than your kind. Ain't nobody groomed to be bred into hard times. There ain't no mother moon for they son doing hard time. And we like the hard grind, not for real estate or cream. No, we do it for the love and to elevate the teams. Poverty of pigment never reigns supreme. We brought to being where radicals dreamed that I'm an actual king. I grew up, never questioned the glow up, never scatter reflections. Love the so God sold up. You deserve an Olympic gold, wrestling with an identity that don't fit the mold. We be like, we the Bambinos, the Chiefs of tomorrow, and we be like, and we made it this far cause we said we don't stop regardless. But they wanna take us back to yesteryear. We don't stop regardless. They think we got every reason to feel. We don't stop regardless. Don't you know we made it this far cause we said we don't stop regardless. Oh no, we don't stop regardless. Nah, we gon' run it all day. 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 We don't stop regardless. Ha. Yeah. We gon' run it all. Yeah. We gon' run it all. But listen, we living life so free. The freedom never free, so there's a price so we. If you can count the cost and unite strongly, then we a manifestation of what life gon' be. We do what we choose. I chose all for release. Call me Pablo, the way I sent my bars overseas. Exploited a mistake on the part of the beast who underestimated the sons and daughters of queens. Like, we the ones that blood ball. We're who they run from. We be like, and we made it this far cause we said we don't stop regardless. But they wanna take us back to yesteryear. We don't stop regardless. They think we got every reason to feel. We don't stop regardless. Don't you know we made it this far cause we said we don't stop regardless. Oh no, we don't stop regardless. Nah, we gon' run it all day. 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 We gon' run it all. We don't stop regardless.
What's going on, everybody? What is going on? Welcome to an episode of Opinionated with yours truly. I am Resla. Give me a moment here. And hopefully you're going to enjoy this particular episode we got going on today. Now, there was before when I had an episode and I spoke about logical fallacies, where I gave pretty much a big breakdown as to different kind of fallacies that we had before. And if you haven't checked out the video, because I listed so many that we had up there, but I wanted to revisit the episode, or rather revisit the conversation, because as much as I've talked a lot about fallacies and all the different type of fallacies that I know I've run across at some point or another, I also want to get your take on it. So I picked up, or rather I pointed out some common fallacies that I still run across, whether it is something that I have with friends, whether it's something I have with family, coworkers, or even on panels and debates that I have with people online. So I do want to cover a little bit of that. It's not going to be nearly as long. And then after I give a little breakdown as to the ones that I do want to talk about, we will open up the panel to have everybody's conversation and their own opinions as to how they want to go through with it. So, of course, I do appreciate you guys for coming in here. This is going to be one of those conversations that you're going to notice real quick that it's not going to be something that well, rather, it's going to be something that you notice, but is it something that you really take notice when you're doing it yourself? Today, that's why I say it's going to be a really, really good one. I think I put it in the description, but the idea is that if you're not interested in learning how other people say things, whether they intentionally manipulate or not, if you're not interested in how people use particular tactics, you might want to not watch this stream. Just not watch this stream. I will catch you on the next one. I will see you most likely tomorrow, because we'll be doing a stream tomorrow. But if you are interested in actually knowing these kind of things, feel free to come on the panel to have the kind of episode or whatever. Because if not, once you learn these things, you're going to see them all the time. You're going to notice them. You're going to be always checking for them. And they just might ruin your perception of how people think or how people converse on a normal basis. So, first things first, I guess we should talk about what the heck are logical fallacies, for those you don't know. Oh, wait, no. Before we even do that, I'm jumping ahead. Forget. we have traditions that we like to do here. First thing I like to do is, of course, appreciate the people who are already walked into the building. So if you haven't already hit the like button, please tend to do so. And then, of course, it is John the Baptist who walked in. He's like, he's already giving me a little bit of question about where I'm going with this. He's already giving me a little bit of question. Lauren came in here. Lauren said, "Okay, listening. Oh, morning. That's what's up. That's what's up." And KTS Worker, yes, yes, this is gonna be one of those ones. Like I said, I had an episode before where I listed a whole bunch of different stuff, but I'm gonna go through some of the common ones, and of course, I want to talk with you guys to know exactly what your thoughts on particular things as well. So I don't know why it's very busy outside today. So hopefully, you guys don't hear what I'm hearing. First things first. In case you haven't seen that episode, because we get a lot of new people who walk in here, what the heck is a logical fallacy? And basically, it's an error within a sense of reasoning that's supposed to weaken an argument. That's is that the best way I could put it? It's probably one of the best ways I could put it. So here's the kicker. They happen all the time. They happen all the time, and a lot of people are not attuned to actually noticing it when it comes out. Fallacies often are sneaky because they sound like they should make sense, but when you really break it down, they fall apart. They fall apart. I mean, think about it. Think of them as the fake news arguments that tend to come up. And hey, they look legit, especially on the surface. But under it, under it, when you really are scrutinizing it, it's complete and utter BS. And look, you don't need to be a debate champion or some kind of philosopher in order to spot a lot of these fallacies coming up. You've probably already encountered tons of them without even recognizing. It happens all the time. Like I said, whether you're dealing with coworkers, whether you deal with family, whether you deal with friends, whether you deal with family in the street, or whether you're taking a look at these actual panels and debates or conversations or interviews that people are having, you see them. The question is, are you taking note of them? And that was kind of a question that I put up even on the last time we were doing this particular type of segment when I was just listing out stuff to you guys. Now, today we're going to break down the most common ones that you'll run into. And whether you are arguing with your partner uh, about whether you're arguing with your partner, let's just say about whose turn is it to do the dishes, or you're listening to like a politician trying to sell you on some new freaking policy, you're going to be able to try to pick this one out. So, first one of the few, we're not going to touch a whole bunch, we're going to touch a few. First one I want to cover is a straw man fallacy. Oh, I can't tell you how many times I run into this one. Nope. And when I say straw man, in case somehow this is new to some of you out here, I know we're running up on October. I know people are thinking about Halloween, but no, this is not about Halloween decorations. A straw man is when someone is basically misrepresenting your argument and making it easier to attack. It's like they actually take your point, dress it up in a ridiculous costume, and then tear down that fake version instead of the actual real one. Hence, straw man. Um, what's good? Let's take an example that I can use for it. Oh, Scotty, Scotty be hippin'. What's up? What's good? What's an example that I can use? A safe example I can use. So imagine you're having a conversation and you say, I think that we should have more public parks. And someone responds by saying, "Oh, so you hate private property." That's a straw man. You didn't even say that, but they twisted your argument into something easier to argue against. Think about that. Think about that for a moment and real quickly, how often does that really happen around you? Honestly, the next time this happens, this is my tactic against it. And sometimes I have to remember to use the tactic myself. Next time this happens, just ask them, did you say that? Or is that your straw man talking? Just watch the confusion that happens on their face. Because this is something that takes place whether you see it online or whether it happens in your everyday conversations. And here's the truth of the matter: depending on how your emotional state is, you might have actually used it yourself. And the thing about watching online panels is that everybody seems to believe that they're, not everybody, but there are people who tend to believe that they are a debate specialist because they're not speaking with actually the idea of having a conversation. In fact, they speak with a whole bunch of logical fallacies. Let's talk about the second one. So we mentioned the straw man. Let's talk about the most popular one that we see when it comes to these debate panels, right? Or rather, these, yeah, debate panels. Let's say it that way. Ad hominems. Mmm, there's a classic one, the good old ad hom fallacy. Now, instead of attacking the actual argument that a person is making, these people decided they want to attack the person themselves instead of the actual argument. It's like playing dirty in a boxing match, and they're not even hitting the right target. For example, you're arguing about climate change, and someone says, well, that can't be right. And you can't be right because you never finished college. That's an ad hom. Like, dude, let's just say, even if I dropped out of college, that doesn't make my argument wrong. It's like when we are having conversations about war, right? Based on the things that we see on the news, based on what we hear about in politics and such. So we're having a talk about a particular war based on what's being said in the news. And maybe it's between two people who one is a military vet, one is not. They're having a conversation about what's going on the news and with those particular either uh, pundits or actual lawmakers or whoever. And a person will say their particular views on what they see based on the information that they have about the whatever said war. And the person who is actually a vet says, "What would you know anything about it? You don't know anything about the news. You don't know anything about life or the war because you have never been in the military service." That doesn't remove the argument that they have based on the information that they're discussing. You're attacking the person rather than attacking the actual argument in the first place. Here's my bit of a tip when it comes to things like that. Next time that someone attacks you rather than attacking your point, I, I would like you to just hit them with it and just say, "That's cute. But how about we actually talk about the issue at hand? Keep it light, keep it to the point, because people will take their ways in debating and wanting to create a whole new fallacy." Let's talk about the next fallacy. We're going to go to number 3 now. Slippery slope. I know we have all gone through a slippery slope fallacy. And that is when someone argues that if we take certain directions, it's going to lead to some extreme cataclysm or usually something really terrible that's going to become an outcome. It's like arguing. So, for instance, I'm thinking about something I went through. Oh, let's talk about high school. As a high school kid, a lot, and probably even still, a lot of kids like to wear fitted caps, right? I used to know this was a big contingent piece when it came to the teachers that were in the school. They always wanted you to take off your hats, take off your hats, take off your hats. But imagine having this conversation with somebody. You're trying to make an argument about kids who are wearing hats in classes. But then the next person says, well, these kids are wearing hats in classes. If we keep allowing them to wear hats in classes, next thing you know, they're going to start wearing pajamas. They're going to start not doing homework. And it's like, yo, can you chill out? We're literally just having a conversation about hats. You're going overboard. You know, when I think of these things, like that was a real life example that took place, by the way. I'll even use this example. If we legalize weed across the country, right? There are people who will turn around and use a slippery slope fallacy to turn around and say, well, if we legalize weed across the nation, pretty soon everybody's going to start doing heroin. That's a slippery slope. And sure, it could happen, but probably not. So when someone is pulling the strings of this slippery slope on you, just ask them. And you ask them a really clear cut question. And you just basically say, you basically ask them to show you examples. Ask them to show you examples or evidence of those extreme outcomes being so often, or rather being the inevitable. And spoiler alert for those who don't know, they aren't. They're usually not. And these people who normally pull up these slippery slopes usually can't defend what they just said. Just putting it out there. Hey, John, you said it. You said it. That's a that's a slippery slope that tends to happen quite a bit. In fact, let's go into point 4, which is also something that can follow the kind of slope that John says. Something called a false dichotomy. That happens quite a bit. It happens quite a bit. Well, hell, to even when John and I have had conversations. And a false dichotomy is when, or rather, it's also known as a black and white fallacy. It is when someone presents you with only two options, when in reality, there are probably hundreds more. It's either or this or that, a yes or no, and there's no middle ground. You're either with us or you're against us. There's no options in between. When the truth of the matter is that it could be half and half. Half of what you're saying could be right, half of what you're saying could be wrong. But thanks for trying. When someone is basically pulling this on you, you have to remind them that the world is full of shades of gray. And no, I don't mean that freaking book. And I'll bring up my last point. Which is the appeal to emotions. This is also a fallacy that I tend to see a lot. Now, when it comes to the appeal of emotions, this is when someone tries to win an argument by trying to tug on your heartstrings rather than presenting you with actual evidence or facts. They're basically counting on you. They're counting on you to get into an emotional state so that you can forget all the logic that's behind the actual argument that's being taken place. I I will think about it this way. If a politician said to you, if you care about children, vote for this policy, that's an emotional appeal. It sidesteps the actual debate. It sidesteps everything about whether the policy is even going to really be good for children or not. It just makes you feel guilty, as if you disagree, you're a bastard. If you disagree, you're not shit. And I think the only way that we can think about tackling this is to keep it away from the emotional part. Ask for data, not for feelings. Trust me, it'll keep the conversation on track. And I guess I'll go into the segment of how to spot a fallacy. Or rather, let me just put it this way: how do we spot fallacies without being that person? And when I say that person, I mean someone who is not considered to be the know it all. We already talked about some of the most common fallacies that we run across, but there's a real challenge behind it. Because how do we confront or combat some of these things that we see on an everyday basis when we have these everyday conversations without being that person? Let's be honest. No one likes to be that guy or gal. No one likes to be that person who's looking asshole who just wants to say, you never want to be wrong. And you guys know what I'm like. I always say it's better to be effective rather than to be right. Too many people just want to be right, and they'll go all over the place just so they can not say that they were wrong. They will not give an inch even when they know they are wrong. So first, when you're dealing with these people, you don't jump with the aha, because that's a slippery slope. I mean, it'll make people defensive. Instead, you got to really ask the questions. Ask the questions that get other people to reflect on why they are saying what they're saying. You could try, do you really think that one small step will lead to the extreme outcomes that you're trying to project? Or you can ask, what makes you think that those are the only two options? You got to try to keep the conversation conversational. You can't fall for the trap. The goal is not to win the argument. The goal is to keep the discussion grounded in logic. It's not to be emotional. It's not a misrepresentation. And hey, if you catch yourself falling into one of these fallacies, own it. Own it. Own it. Laugh it off. Move on. I mean, we're all guilty of it. I can't think of a person who hasn't done it whatsoever. I think everything that I just mentioned are the most common because I see them everywhere. What made me brought up this episode is that I was just dealing with it when it came to conferences that I was having with meetings and the clients and the employees that I deal with. There was arguments that were taking place, and I was sitting there listening and watching, and I'm just like, hmm, oh, that's something. Hey, oh, they're going somewhere with this. I wonder. My camera's out of focus. It's really liking my sign. It's not really liking me right now for whatever reason. There we go. Now it likes me again for whatever reason. And like I picked these out because these are the most common things that I run across even online. And like I said, I've got a whole lot more fallacies that I put up on my not recent, but on my previous video about logical fallacies. But like I said, I wanted to open this up so that we could also have the discussion together. Because last time I just covered a lot of fallacies. I didn't actually get into a whole sector where we could actually discuss these things together. And that's what I want to do today. So if you're inclined to do so, you can go ahead and you can click the link. The link will be pinned to the top of the chat. For those who are feeling froggy, for those who are walking in, be sure to actually hit that like button as well. I do have some rules. You come in here, you want to be off camera, you can be off camera. I will be watching the scrutinize, whatever. If you want to be on camera, even better. Love it because I love to put faces to names. But I also do say this, and I'm going to repeat myself because I say this all the time. Be careful how you are when you get online because when you open your mouth, you tell the world who you are. When I come up here, I'm being me. This is no character that you're looking at. So when you're up here, I know like people like to be anonymous behind names or just like to act crazy or whatever, but don't think for a moment that I won't handle that. I will definitely handle it and I will handle it with care. Because the idea is not for tricks. The idea is that we actually have a good dialogue because it's not really about you. It's about everybody who's watching. So let's have a talk about it. Let's have those actual discussions. Because this is where I want to hear from you. How do you deal with logical fallacies? What fallacies do you think that you're actually dealing with? Hmm? What's the best way to teach someone who who gets into these ideas of using these fallacies, and how do you have the conversation with them without making them feel defensive? These are questions, and you guys let me know. If you need to get yourselves ready, you need to get yourself set up or whatever, it's cool. That's not a problem. I don't have a problem with it. Like I said, this is going to be one of those episodes where we're just going to have that talk and we're going to be able to cook and it's all going to be nice. We keep it all copacetic. If you haven't seen how I already do things, that you would already know that. And I will give you guys a couple of minutes to go sort that out. So take a breather And in the meantime, take a look at some other people that I be cooking with.
Regular drink, like you a blood, sit baby still, fast and fly. Evidence plain, no dick hole, then no blackity black shit. We chillin' with the crew. You welcome for the session. I hope your time was pleasant. Now did you learn your lesson? Welcome to the porch. Welcome to the porch. Yeah. Welcome to the porch. Welcome to the porch. Welcome to the porch. Welcome to the porch. Yeah. Welcome to the porch. Grab you a drink, light you a blunt, sit back and steal, facts fly. Evidence plain, no dick hole, then no blackity black shit. We chillin' with the crew. You welcome for the session. I hope your time was pleasant. Now did you learn your lesson? Welcome to the porch. Welcome to the porch. Welcome to the porch. Welcome to the porch. Yeah. Welcome to the porch. Welcome to the porch. Welcome to the porch. Welcome to the porch. Yeah. 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 Welcome to the porch. Oh, do dirty, flipping packs in the back, stuffing the blood, fat stack, jet black Cadillac, stacks in the mattress, cash cow status, walk in the streets, heat up, no crack, blood blazing, smoke hazing, OGs in the attic, crispy clean kicks, ain't nothing static, southern nights, trap dreams, raw magic, light it up, inhale the magic, erratic, down south, making moves.
And by the way, if you don't know, you should definitely take a look at the port session as well as OG Do Dirty, who I do partner with. We have a really good show that we do called the Drop By Discussions that we happen actually weekly. I'll be sure to actually link that as well. So be sure to take a look. If you haven't, like I said, sub to me, sub to OG, and then of course you will get the notifications, of course, when we're going to be going live, which are always that Tuesday night, quote, Wednesday morning. So it is 1 a.m. Eastern because I'm here in New York, and it will be 12 Central Time for him. Oh, Tip, are you in here talking shit? You say long intros? Because I cut straight to the chase. I don't do no 30 minutes. I just hop straight in. We get cooking. Sometimes I do a little bit of monologue to set the tone, but I do that. Some people just don't know when to stop talking. All right, fellas. So we got OG Do Dirty up in here, as well as John the Baptist. How's it
What's
going,
cracking?
fellas?
I'm rolling up,
What's up? What's up?
trying to get high, sir. That's it.
Because I got high.
That's
Because
a fact. You know the favorite part of the song, nigga, is the end of that song. Do you remember it?
He said a whole bunch of stuff at the end.
That's when he was telling them niggas he was from East Pondale.
Oh God. Really?
Yeah, that's the best part of that whole song, bro. Is the outro, bro. That nigga fooled Wayne. I love that song.
I haven't heard that one in a while too. It is one of my favorite songs though.
What
So, God.
What about that Coke 45 and 2 zigzags?
Oh gosh. Let me give
Yes, sir.
So, guys, tell me what do you think about the conversation so far? I don't know if either one of you saw the episode last time. It was some time ago when I did it, but it was called Logical Fallacies, and like I said, I just listed up a whole bunch of different fallacies that people deal with, and I gave a little bit of a project actually, because I knew a lot of people who was watching at the time were the same people who wanted to visit other people's panels, and I asked them to at least pick out 3 I can't remember. I gave a lot of fallacies out there. I said pick up 3 and then to basically analyze the people that they're watching, to see if they would actually notice it. Whether they did it or not is something totally different. But I wanted to revisit this and then have a conversation about it. And since you guys have come up, let me just go ahead and ask you. So my first question I started giving to the chat, but I'll re-ask the question again. When you're dealing with somebody, because I think we 3 have all been on panels speaking to multiple different people, multiple different creators on their panels. And of course, if not, we all have real life experiences where we speak to our partners, our family, our friends, our coworkers, or strangers in the street. What's the best way to teach someone about fallacies without making them defensive? John, you can go first.
I'm terrible for that question because I don't care about offending people. I'm not. I'm
It's not
not.
about
Go ahead.
offending. If
Go
it's
ahead.
not about offending, if you again, if you are looking to have an honest conversation with somebody, you know what you do not want somebody to do during the conversation, to intentionally try to, well, I would say unintentionally as well, but you don't want someone to be deceitful in any way. You don't want to feel like you're being deceived in any way. So, and when you find someone who is stating something like, for instance, I'll say the slippery slope. When someone is being extra, they're being very much the person who's exaggerating. How do you go about pointing that out to them? Even though I kind of gave a tip, how do you go about explaining that to them in a way where they don't feel defensive? Again, it's not about offending, but how do you tell them, like, you said that and you don't really have any, you know, how do you say it to them so that they recognize what they're doing?
Again, what I was about to say is about to say. I probably use the wrong word. I don't worry about them getting defensive because I don't know. My conversation skills are bare minimum. So if you're doing something, I catch you doing it, I'm just going to tell you what you're doing, and you need to stop doing it. I'm not smart to say it in a way where they don't get defensive. I'm going to not.
Sorry, John,
You bored out on the
you
last
bored
part.
out for a little bit. Sorry.
Yeah, but I said, basically for me, I'm not my conversation skills are not that great. I'm saying I'm going to say what I'm going to say. If I catch you doing something that has fallacy to it, only way I know how to correct it is by telling you what you just did, and either you stop doing it or you keep doing it. But I'm not going to worry about you being defended. I mean, well, being defensive about what I just said. How you feel about what I just said is up to you.
So you don't think it's so this is a conversation that it's a little bit of a side. I'm not gonna try to get off of it. You don't think it's important to have effective dialogue when it comes to people so that people are not misunderstanding or in a situation where they're misrepresenting what's going on, because this is exactly how people run into
Okay,
bad communication
you
and bad
just did a
culture.
straw man. So I'll give you an example right here. You
No,
just did
I'm
a
no,
straw
I'm
man.
asking a clarifying question. I did
I
a straw
got you. I
man.
got you. I'm
Nice
giving you a
try.
straw. I'm saying I'm giving you
Nice
no.
try.
I'm giving you example. I'm giving you example how I would do it though. Even in your question, right? I'm taking your question as a straw man, right? Because you said I don't care about having an effective conversation. And what
No,
I'm
no, I'm
saying
a-
to
no,
you
no,
is,
no, 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 no,
I know
no.
you're
See,
asking.
there's your straw
You're
man.
asking.
There's your straw man. Yeah, I got you now. I got you now. I got what
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
saying.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
there's your
asking.
straw man. Yeah, no, no.
Yeah.
And my job is to correct and say, no, I asked the question. Did I
Yes, you
say
did.
that?
No, great. You asked the question, but I'm using your question as if you did do a straw man,
No,
because the kind of
I
question
got
that you
you.
asked was, okay, I got you. So okay. So now, yes, I do care about having an effective conversation. But the point
Okay.
is, it's up to you. If I tell you that you just did a straw man and you get offended by it, that's up to you. Or defensive, that's up to you.
Well,
We can
don't you
have
think that
we can have the conversation, but you don't have to get defensive about it. I just told you what you did wrong.
well, don't you think that the person who is being defensive could could be defensive because they don't think they have been using a straw man, but therefore, if you have proper communication, you can relay it to them how it's a straw man. This is the reason why I'm actually putting up like a lot of stuff, like to relate to them what they did, and therefore they can understand. Like a great way is exactly what we just did a moment ago.
Yeah,
You flip my very question as a statement when I asked the question, and I told them, no, 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 that's not what I said. That's not what I said. Then you ask them to repeat exactly what you said. When they can, that can fix so much right there.
yeah. And I agree.
because
I
some
agree
people
with you.
make up stuff that's not there.
I I can tell you and try to explain to you to the best of my ability
Yep.
what you did wrong. But it's up to that person to either receive or reject the information that I gave them, agree to or disagree. I'm not
Mm.
responsible for how they feel. I'm only responsible for what I say.
So do you?
How they
Oh, so
go ahead.
when you believe that you're only responsible for what you say, you're not responsible for the way people feel. You don't think that you're responsible for the way people interpret what they think about you.
No. Once I tell you
Really?
that you did a straw man or a false dichotomy or whatever the case may be, once I explain that to you, and after and I tell you exactly what I just said, how you did the straw man, how you did the false dichotomy, whatever case, whatever the logical fallacy that they committed. Once I explained it to you, it's not up to me how you feel about it.
So do you? Let me just ask this question. It has nothing to do with you, but do you believe a person because of the way how they feel about how they are and how they speak that they should speak to everybody in that fashion? A person should just be walking around and cursing and cussing and use that language around in a professional setting, whether it's their boss or whatever, and just says, "Well, this is the way how I am. This is the way how I talk. You just have to deal with it. If you feel a way, that's just the way it is." Do you think that's the right way to communicate?
That's not what I said, but I'll address
No,
what
no,
you
that
said.
was a question. That was a question. I didn't say you
I got
said
you. I
you said
got
it.
you.
See,
Got you.
then
I
nice
got
try
you.
again. Nice
I
try
got you.
again.
No, I don't think it's professional for me to go around just cussing everybody out. I try my best not to cuss people out. I try my best to keep the conversation on point as much as I can.
Mm.
Um, yes, I don't think it's good to go around just being disrespectful to conversation. I think you should be as professional as possible, as cordial as possible in conversation. Do I always
So
do
you
it?
do
No, but I think
understand. Go
yeah.
ahead. No, finish what you were saying.
No, not. I'm good. I think I'm good. Go ahead.
Okay. So you do understand why trying to find a better way to communicate with people so that therefore they don't even have to worry about being defensive is very important rather than just saying, I'm gonna just say what I say, and if you get mad, that's it. Because that's the point that I just made about the other person. I'm gonna just say what I'm gonna say, and if you get mad, that's it. Is it really important
No. Gotcha.
when we can make effective changes? Because again, this is not about the matter of being right; it's about being effective. And communication is a way of being effective. It's not about it is what it is. That's not what communication is about.
So let me say this again, because I think maybe I wasn't clear in the beginning.
Mhm.
When it comes to communication is not my strongest suit.
I get it.
So
I
when
heard you.
so when it, so when there is someone whenever there's miscommunication, a logical fallacy that's happened.
Mhm.
If I catch a straw man that's happened, if I catch a false dichotomy that's happened, some people can flip their words and say it in some way that and correct you in such a way that you never felt like, oh, they did it in a very nice way. My approach that I know to do, because I'm not mine is not as strong as everybody else's, is just be direct. Being direct can probably make someone feel uncomfortable if they're looking for someone who is more intelligent in communication, who can make them feel at ease and relaxed. I I haven't mastered, nor do I look to try to master making people relax when I say something.
I no, I rather don't get me wrong. Don't think as if I am disagreeing with you. We're having a
Okay.
conversation about rather approaches because I am one to say that when I've been in situations just like what you're talking about, where I say things and people think that I'm being rude, and the truth of the matter is that I'm being direct. And I need to
Yeah,
be able to foster a way of communicating to that to say that this is the way it needs to get done because no other way that I'm explaining it to you hits home.
that's it.
So I get it. I
Yeah.
get it. I just think that when we're dealing with people right off the bat, which is why I made that distinction for the person that just says, "Well, this is how I am all the time," well, and this everybody else needs to adjust to me. That's not the way how things work. We need to find some middle ground because one of the things we talked about are the people that turn around. They do the yes or no, black and white. This is me. It's me against you. Either you with me or against me attitude. And that doesn't work for everyone you come across.
I
There's
would
middle
agree.
ground. There's middle grounds, and I think a lot of people don't come to realize that. This is why I talked about the whole thing about communication.
I think the middle ground though is being cordial and respectful
I
while being direct.
absolutely,
I think
absolutely.
that's the middle ground. Anything other than me being cordial and respectful in the conversation, other than that, I don't know what else you're gonna get out of me. Because I think the most important thing to me is being about the direct, cordial, respectful. Now, how you take what I'm saying, but no, I don't think you should come into a conversation saying this is me, this is how I am. You respond to me, you do this, you do that. I think that's a dangerous way to do it, especially if you
Wait,
come
have
out
you
from
run
some
across
perspective.
someone who's done that?
Yes, I have, and when I individuals like that, I don't talk to them long.
Gotcha.
I don't have no problem with it because
I had a
it's a
feeling you were gonna say that.
yeah. I don't have no problem with it because it's a conversation. So the fallacy that you bring up, I kind of agree with John, but I see where you're coming from with it when you talk about the professional stance and how you want people to relate to what you're talking about. So, and this is my opinion. This is the reason why I do the things I do. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't speak the same way I speak when I'm in my former working spot. If I'm doing something that provides a living for me, I'm not going to speak the same way I speak on the internet. Well, the way I speak on the internet is this is everyday OG. When I don't like to use, when I want to use my brain to figure out the correct words to say or the polite way to say it, I'm just going to say it the way I'm going to say it because that's what I do in my regular life. When I'm around my friends, when I'm around the people that I'm ilked with, you know what I'm saying? Same mind frame, same people like I get along with, because everybody I don't get along with. So the people I do get along with, people I fish with, people I contact with, smoke with, stuff like that, I do activities with, then those people right there, I have a different type of communication with than a professional setting. Professional setting, I look at that as I don't think it's a place where you have to, where you can't be yourself because you got to be professional. It's a term that they came up with. It's a sector that they came up with to where you have to perform yourself at a better placement. You can't be at the bottom. If you at the bottom, they will still want you to use correct wording. So that's why I say even on the panels, if you see me say a word like chat clackling, I don't want to just say some stupid. I want to say the stupid shit because we online. I want to put a smile on people's face. I want to. It's the way that it's the base of the way that you communicate. I notice when I communicate with my friends, I make my friends laugh because I'm a type of person that always throw funny stuff in there. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna use that more than trying to use the correct speech or trying to use the correct verbiage to please other people. Like that's something that I wanted people to realize when I came on here. I'm OG Do Dirty. You don't know me in real life. You don't know what I have accomplished. You don't know what I have done. Only thing that you know is I smoke weed and I tell you I'm dumb. Take that as what it is. Don't take it no further than that. Don't make me try to be something that I'm not, or what I'm not trying to be. I'm not in a professional setting. I'm not at my work. I'm not at my work job. You know what I'm saying? I'm not doing none of the stuff that I'm doing online that I'm doing out here in the real life. So I wouldn't expect nobody to be like, oh, well, you said you need to say it like this. Well, this is what I get online. I just went over the Fatty page the other day and had people try to correct me on my language. I had PhD but try to correct me on my language. No, sweetie, just read it how I wrote it because I thought it was funny, and that's the reason why I wrote it that way. That's the reason why I didn't use punctuation. It's the reason why I just made up a verb. And why did you make it? You can't make up a verb. Yeah, you can. Most of the stuff has stuff that goes with it. If you ask somebody what's an adjective, they can tell you what an adjective is because adjective has a meaning. If I ask you what a verb is, I can tell you what a verb is because it has a meaning. So if I can take a word and I can make a word and I want to put that on it, use it the way that I want it to be used. Now, when it comes to just having communication with people, yeah, you're going to have some people, bro, who's not going to see the logical thinking that you're going to present on YouTube. So they might be in their feelings. And this is where the problem come in. I feel like you should just keep on sticking to the logic because you're not having a conversation about feelings if you're asking a logical question. So if you feel some type of way, but I'm giving you the logic, I'm going to stick to the logic. There's no reason for me to make you beneath me, belittle you, or anything. I should just stick to the logic because the logic is a solvent in itself. Your feelings is something that you feel. I might not feel the same thing that you feel, but we know one thing is factual. If it's a fact, that I don't have to go back on what that fact is because you feel something different. I can just stick to the fact. Now you might be upset, like John said, but I'm still going to stick to the fact because I know it's a fact. I understand that you feel this type of way and you have feelings towards this fact. That still doesn't change that it still doesn't change what I'm saying is correct. So I'm gonna stick to the correct verbiage and what I'm saying. Now you might not understand that, and that's cool. I can try to give you an example or try to explain to you what I meant by what I'm saying. But still, if I'm still going to a logical fact, your feelings don't matter. Because the conversation that we're having is not about feelings. We're having a conversation and you telling me that I'm wrong or you telling me that I'm right is giving me something factual, right? If you telling somebody, well, like I had this conversation with people, you can't tell me that the sky is green when I can look up and see the sky is blue.
Well, so actually, it's clear and it's reflecting off the. No, I'm messing with you.
Exactly. No. But you're right about that though, because even if they go there, I can go to the fact and be like, you know what, I can understand it because I know the science behind it. When somebody first told me that, I didn't believe them, so I went to go look up the science, and then the science says what you just said. So you know what, you're right. I'm not even going to go against your stance. You see what I just did? You're right. Most people won't even do that because they only looking at how they feel about something. Well, I'm saying that it's green because you might be colorblind, sir. And we all telling you that it's blue. So which one do you want me to go? You want me to go with what you say because this is how you feel about something? Or we can go with the factual where everybody is saying the same thing, that it's blue. I'm not about to argue with nobody who's going to keep on doing that. I'm just going to keep on telling you, well, this is why I know it's blue. And then once you say, well, you know what, I know it's green. Well, tell me how the particles turn the motherfucker green when we know in science that it's going to turn it blue. You see what I'm saying? How can you argue that? And if they do it, let them be in their feelings.
Interesting. I like it. So there's I guess that as I'm hearing both of you guys, especially for you, OG, and you bringing up because you brought up the funny part of making up your own verbs and everything, right?
Right.
Which I find funny. But I think about the people who, like you said, they don't know who you are, and because they're experiencing you for the first time, there is a disconnect. Not
Right.
that that's a negative thing, but there's a disconnect because they don't know your behavior when it comes to being funny. And because of that, they feel maybe it's the same thing with that guy. I forgot the guy that you just mentioned. But the idea that because they don't know who you are and they don't know if you're doing that's why they feel the need to try to correct you. Again, that they don't get it. So what is, and I'm not even saying that you should be necessarily having to do anything about it, but do we understand that this is also an issue that falls short in communication? And I get why you're doing it. Again, it's the internet. You just said it before. You don't do this in your real life. I think there are people that I'll even just say, like myself, who regardless of where they go, they're trying to be themselves. Like who you got here is the same person I am when I'm actually at work. KTS worker was saying the code switching part. I can tell you, I literally worked really hard not to have to worry about code switching. Who you see is who you get. Because here's the truth of the matter. I've been in plenty of meetings with people where they turn around and they cuss. They do whatever. I'm not saying they're just straight up belligerent and they're throwing shit or whatever, but they cuss, they do whatever. They're human beings. And because I give them that 3 things that I work on, which is the care, grace, and mercy, they extend that to me as well. And I think treating people as they are is the best way to go about it. Now, not everybody looks at it that way, and I get it. We need to code switch or whatever, and code switching is different by region, by job, by whatever, by situation. But there are people that just think that code switching is an end all be all, and there's no way to get around it. Again, that black and white. No, and there's some people that are just comfortable in just saying this is how I am because I can relate to the common person, but I can also relate to you because you get exactly what you want. Don't ask for me to kiss your ass. I'm not going to do it. Which is why I agree with John when he said there's a difference between, well, rather not, I agree with John and I said there's a difference between being rude and being direct. So I understand your point. I understand your point of what you're saying, OG. I just think there's a disconnect with some people when you're like say on Fatty's page because they're just not accustomed to you. I
Well,
think over time as they get accustomed to you, it'll become a normal thing and then everybody will laugh and get along with it. People don't get the joke when they don't understand the region that you're from. That's just what it is.
you're right about that, and even to the point, like I say, and not even like I say, no, not even Fatty page, not even other people pages where I go. It's just an everyday life type of situation where you have to use your brain, bro. So if I tell you, like I just use an example, I just sat there and said, I know the difference between a verb, a noun, you know what I mean? Like you an adjective and all this stuff. Like we learned all this shit in school, bro. Most people don't know, my nigga, for a word or a phrase that can describe an action, condition, or experience. So when I told them that, they looked at me like I was crazy. Well, nigga, you know this as much as I do, bro. You learned it in school. So when I tell you, nigga, you in the motherfucking chat clackling, nigga, what do you think I mean by that? I'm not the smartest, and I'm not. And again, everybody on here makes themselves smart. So they code switch. See, what I noticed is you do this because people get online, and if you don't use the correct verbiage, you know, you can't say like some of the stuff that I say on here. Y'all know I don't like saying the words completely out. I like to switch them up and throw a little extra stuff, you know what I'm saying? My isms, my tears, you know what I'm saying? All that, I switch them all up. I don't give them because most of this shit has meaning to it. There's a lot of different words that has ism on the back of it that you could switch up. IMS is different from ITS. Just saying. And I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I know this. But if people can't understand that, then when I tell them that, just know it's a joke. And then and most of the time I even say the word twice. I say the word correctly just so you can know that I can say the word correctly, but then still just say the word the way I want to say it, because that's just the way I want to do it. But it goes back to that. I don't think that I'm being. I'm starting a fallacy with the communication. This is what I'm realizing. Think about that. And most people won't. And most people won't even say that. They won't say that. They won't say that I'm starting a fallacy. You know what I'm saying? But I realize that. But it's a part of my conversation because I'm trying to do something that most people. I'm trying to engage a conversation, put a smile on your face, make you laugh, make you think. So you can give me a response of what you give me. Or if I didn't want that, you know what I do? I just say the word correctly and be like everybody else. So I think it's a part of a good conversation, bad conversation, even when the way that you say it, we say a lot of words, bro, but it's just the demeanor that we say it that people take it the wrong way, they get in their feelings. So we can all say the same word, value, the same way, but I can say he has value. Somebody can say he has no value. And the way they say no value is the part that people get in their feelings about.
Which is crazy because to say that someone does not have any value is to call someone worthless. I don't see anyone as being worthless. They are useful at something. I mean, we even have the term useful idiots.
Good one right here.
So KTS, Karen, what do you mean? Well, when I say is he cooking, that means is he spitting facts? Is what he's saying factual? Do you resonate with that? Is that is on your vibrational wavelength? That's what we mean by it. We're trying to get you some points into your black card, okay? We gonna get you there.
Yeah, that went right along with what you saying. Like I said, I ain't want to throw it up there, but you was talking about the shit, so I want to make sure he can explain it to you just like he did. That's right on point. It just letting you know that you're doing it, you're on point. That's what that shit mean.
And KTS worker, this is exactly the point that when we said the corporate world is brutal, but this is why I was having my conversation. I was having my conversation before when I mentioned like knowledge doesn't necessarily equate. No, you knowing more doesn't necessarily equate to you being wise. You know, there are people that try to use all the high words and no one can understand or relate to them. and I deal with people who are like educators, people who are think that they're communication specialists. It's a damn shame when you run into someone who is a master of communication and they can't communicate. It's a shame, and I've had to go through that several times. I'm like, how is it that you have the communication degree and you're failing? You're failing me in real time. You're failing this group in real time because the part of communication is also relation. Most, like, not even saying most, let me not say that. In my relationship with people who are communicators, they fall apart because they cannot relate to other people. So this is why I always say that it's very important to understand the words, but then to bring it back to people who are common so that you can be more effective. When you said it yourself, OG, people who try to come up here and they try to make themselves sound smarter. I can understand a word that's being said. I'm not inclined to use it in order to understand it because using it also doesn't help other people who are watching. This is why I say I have a conversation with somebody on one-on-one, but I'm trying to be very cognizant of other people around me paying attention because I also want them to follow. I don't want it to be a secret language. So I agree with that when I agree with that when you say the corporate world is brutal because I've met plenty of people who are like that, and this is also why I mentioned that a lot of freaking a lot of freaking work cultures, they fall apart. They fall apart because of communication. That's it. That is exactly it. You said you agree, but because of knowledge, I agree. Because there are plenty of people who read a bunch of books, they have a whole bunch of knowledge, but they can't implement it. They cannot put it to actual practicality. It's all theory, no practicality whatsoever. No chaser with the question. He said, does the word make you smarter, or whether the phrase of the well, it's not the words that make you smarter. It's the concept of using the words and the and other people who are the listeners of you using those words. It's because it's a reflectionary process. The other people using those words because they don't use those words, and how often they don't use those words, that they give you extra credit, especially if you're able to use it. It's like this. We've all at this point heard Michael Eric Dyson, right? But how many people have jumped on him because they feel like he used high caliber words, but he used them incorrectly? They jumped on him for it. It's word like to a lot of people, it's word salad.
Well, think about it like this.
So
People who jump on people who use big words and they use the words wrong, they jump on them because they know that the person is using the word incorrectly. So it makes them feel like they're better than that person who's using the word, because you don't use the word as often as they do. But once you hear somebody use that word incorrectly, what you do is you hop on them and tell them that they're using the word incorrectly because you know the
Right.
word correctly.
Correct. But one of the things that we say all the time, OG, and this goes across all cultures, we say, don't use words you don't understand. Ain't understanding. And there are people who just like to look at words, try to figure out how to use them in a sentence, and then use it. But if you ask them about the very word that they use, they could not use it. They could not tell you what it is. You know what's a word
I
that I
agree.
like? You know what's a word that I like, but I'm always struggling trying to figure out how to put it into a word, into a
What's that?
sentence? Accoutrement. The
What
start,
does
the
it mean?
foundation, the birth of something. But I'm always having a struggle trying to figure out how to put that into a sentence because it's just not normal for me. Disto, what's going on,
It's
man?
so what's cracking with your brother?
What's up? What's up? Pura vida. Sorry,
Man,
interrupt.
we're talking this stuff.
We're up here discussing 5 logical fallacies that I broke down to everybody earlier, and how
Oh,
often those common things are being used. And I kind of have questions that I brought up. So the first questions I brought up was, what did I ask? Let me go back and take a look to
yeah, I
see what.
got in late, so I did not go back. I saw the subject. I love this subject. It's one of my majors, linguistics. So, and also the use of reason, etc. Imagine you're talking about aluminium, tucoque, ad hoc, a priori, all those type of things, right?
Oh, he went down to the origin of all that shit.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Yeah. See, this is what I see now. When you break it down like that, that's where most people are going to get upset because they're going to go back to what Resla just saying. They didn't heard those words, see no words, but they don't understand what none of those words mean or know how to use them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In the correct way. You know what I'm saying? So they'll just say a lot of word salad and make themselves, but see, I can understand when you hear some people talk or you hear people talk about something that that they was involved in, they learned about. It goes back to that question John was talking about, where people are regurgitating everything or saying the stuff that's been said to them, and people think that they're smart. You know what I'm saying? So
You got a fan. You got a fan, Disto.
Hey,
oh yeah,
KTS. Nice.
that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
basically what I was saying.
Yeah, dude, it happens to me every single time. It's something I've learned to live with. Look, I speak. I have three main languages, which is English, Spanish, and my native. But I also speak French, Portuguese. I've been learning Japanese, a little bit of Cantonese. I go all that way. You
He's a
know,
polyglot.
I'm a polyglot. Yeah. And I'm studied. You know, I'm 43 years old. I ended high school at 18. I did my tour 18 till about late 20s, 28, 29. That's when I graduated. Those 10 years, I dedicated myself to just get my stuff done. Uh, and it happens to me every single time. It's like I know what I'm talking about. I can talk about things. I'm well informed, but then when I start telling somebody, "Hey, man, you started using an aluminium," they're like, "What?" And the worst thing is, I pronounce it in the Latin way, you know, aluminium. And they're like, or when I tell them that they're proposing an ad hoc uh, from ignorance argument or things like that, and then, oh, you're using too big words. I'm like, so what are big words? Should I talk to you like a 5-year-old?
Well, oh, wait, okay, that's kind of foul, but but I hate to say it, but the majority of people do not speak on what we consider to be a higher level, which is why I also believe it's very important for those who do speak at those higher levels to become more relative. Because let's just be honest, when we look at any organization, who's the greater number? Uh, Supervisors or employees? We're gonna say employees. Who's the greater number? Specialists or employees? We're still gonna say employees. Who's the greater number? CEOs, CFOs, VPs, like we're gonna say the
COOs.
employees.
Yeah,
We're
you're
gonna
right.
say the employees, which means that no matter how higher the level are, they need to be able to speak to the people who are helping push their business forward, which is the common person. And I think people who get at that higher level, they lose track of that. They lose track of that relatability, which is the reason why we even look at politicians, even though a lot of them are not up to par. But a lot of people look at them as someone who's up on the upper echelon, but every time an election cycle comes up, they go down to what? The common people. They visit the common people because those are the people that they want the votes from. I think it's a very important for anyone at any level to be able to conversate with the average person to get a better understanding, not just of them, but that for the common person, the common man or woman, to understand them.
And I
So
agree. Yeah,
I
go
got a
ahead.
question. I got a question to the young gentleman at the left hand corner. Okay, what was your name again?
This Disto Latin American.
Okay, I can't even pronounce that.
You can call him Disco. Call him Disco.
Yeah,
Disco,
call me
disco,
Ditso.
disco. Oh, disco.
Not
Okay, I
not
didn't hear
not,
what you.
not
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
disco,
No,
not disco,
Ditso.
disto.
This stove,
Yes.
like
Disto.
this stove. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
disto. Okay, disto. Okay, I
Yeah,
got
yeah,
you.
there
I
you
got
go.
you.
There you go, John. Yeah, we from
Yeah,
the
I got
South,
you.
man. You know, I gotta talk to John now,
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
yeah. I'm part of the common people crowd. Yeah. So no, like there's nothing wrong with being educated, right? To get all the education you can get, and like Resla was saying, that like once you get to a certain level of education, you're kind of in the upper echelon. but you rarely speak to the upper echelon unless you're in that group all the time. The most people you're dealing with in society, they operate at a high school level. So there's nothing wrong with your education, but then how you said a few seconds ago, Disto, that you get upset when somebody asks you to say it using a smaller language or smaller words. How do you think they feel when they have to ask you to say it in a smaller words?
Or if they don't ask at all, if they just feel
Correct.
stupid and stuck and they don't want to ask because they feel embarrassed. That's another thing about communication. You don't want people to feel embarrassed. But go ahead, Disto.
I think we have a dilemma here because I understand where the essence of the argument is coming from, but we also have to recognize that there are some conversations that require a higher level of knowledge and a higher level of academic background in order to have the thorough conversation. And numbing it down can also behave like fallacies in that sense, and it can then create misunderstandings. So in some circumstances, what I would say in a very simple fashion is that both the one that's hearing and the one that's speaking and vice versa needs to have an understanding, a base understanding of what they're going into. One thing could be colloquial conversations about, did you check out what happened last week with in the hood or whatever? Those type of conversations don't require that type of high end conversation. Or talking to friends about the movie you saw, the music you heard, yada 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 yada. But then we go into the terrain of politics, or the terrain of those things that affect us all, and some of those elements require knowledge.
Okay, so the reason why I have my finger up because I'm trying to remember the point that I have. Sometimes I have to make mental checkpoints for myself. So you said there are some conversations that require the higher level context of I guess the words or thinking. Like the thinking is something different from the actual usage, the verbiage, the vernacular, to put it that way, for people. What conversation would you actually say are the ones that are quote important for that kind of language? Because we can see right now politics is not it, because the point I made earlier, when it comes to people who are quote looking to be, or rather they're put on the pedestal of being on another level, they always come down to common people to try to relate. So what conversations are those, if you don't mind me,
Okay,
if you don't mind putting
yeah.
it out
Actually, you mentioned politics, and I consider politics to be one of those points where you need to have uh, and continuously evolve the understanding of rhetoric, the understanding of fallacies, because that is one of the major terrains where those weapons are utilized against those of the common people. So there in politics is one of those which you I if I made myself or if I made the point understand as if they were superior conversations, perhaps let me track it back. They're not superior conversations. They're not inferior conversations. They're conversations. Conversations require context, and that context requires then accessibility to knowledge, or accessibility to at least be able to know when you're being bullshit at, and that's when in the art of politics, if people don't have those weapons, they easily fall for the populist who wants power and wants to keep it for the rest of their lives, and then give it to their family members, etc., etc., etc. The Maduros, the Ortegas, the Pinochets, the Trumps, etc., 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 etc.
Yeah, I
but
get what you
you
so
cannot go ahead, OG, go ahead.
I agree with what he's saying, bro. If I'm correct on if I'm listening to what he's saying, I think he's saying the same thing I was saying, bro. Uh, Earlier in the show, I told them Disto that when I'm online, I use a certain type of rhetoric. But when I'm at my dispensary or I'm working with somebody, bro, to do business with, get a some type of contract with on growing anything that I grow, you know what I'm saying? I won't use that same type of rhetoric I'm gonna use online because I know it's a professional setting. And even when it comes to the politics, I agree with it. Some people we have to get to a common place with the politics. That's what I'm realizing now because I'm starting to get into it. I'm I'm still younger than most people that's on here. I'm still in my 30s. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I'm trying to get more into listening to what they saying, but I'm realizing the verbiage is what's messing everybody up because everybody is not on the same common. They use these high language, these big words, just put it like that. They use big words, and some people don't understand what these big words is, even though I understand what they mean. So it's easy for me to relate to it than what most people do. But I'm looking at the common folk. But I agree with you, bro. When you in, it's the setting that you in that you use that verbiage in. You know what I'm saying? If you're going to be again with your friends, y'all playing the game, y'all out, you know what I'm saying, playing hoops, you're not going to be talking no big words then. But I can understand if you at the work and you got, you know what I'm saying, two different corporations there and y'all about to do business and you are a COO or a CEO, I don't expect you to use the same verbiage that you use with your friends while you was at the house playing basketball. I
So
expect you to have,
I'm gonna challenge that a little bit because you said your friends, right? The truth of the matter is
yeah,
that we don't know what people consider as friends. Maybe people consider friends as the guys who are at the high end country club. They
I get
may
you.
still use those particular words. So
I get you. And that's the social construct of it. The
yeah,
social
because
construct of it is a whole different thing when it comes to, because like I said, it's going to be different sections that you have to think about it. We can go through all of them. I'm not tripping, but you're talking about a person who knows that using smaller words with his friends. So you got some friends that you can use those words with, but you have some friends that's same mind, that's like-minded like you, that like to use big words, and y'all use this as something how a way of a place of
what do you
communication.
mean? Pause. What do you
Well,
mean like
listen,
me?
well, I'm just keeping it real. Like with you, I know I
I
can't come
like
up
those
here.
bigger words.
Listen to me, bro. You know how to pronounce words and you know how to use big words, right? I pronounce them and I know how to use them too. So it's easy for us to communicate on. But I have other friends in my life, bro, that wouldn't know what some of them words is. You know what I'm saying? Because again, you just try to figure out what a word of, say it again, the foundation on how something start, catch it. What you say, how you say it?
I mentioned the accoutrement.
Accoutrement. Right. See, that word right there, period. How many people is going to use that, Resla?
Rarely anyone does. It's a very
Exactly.
old word.
Very old one.
So when you talk about words like that, it's not something that people use all the time. We're talking about people who use and, ain't. You know what I mean? They're not going to use that. So I expect not to use that word around them. But maybe if me and you having a real deep conversation, and I remember what damn Resla been trying to figure out how to use this word, and I'm thinking of something, and it goes with the damn meeting, and I want to use the word. You can tell me if I goddamn OG, you use that word right, I probably used it like that, but it didn't work for me. Because you understand it, you know what I'm saying, and that's where the social part come in. Because I get what you're saying. Some of your friends you're going to hang out with, country club members, you know what I'm saying, just even friends that's on your level, they might speak that same rhetoric. So you might use big words while speaking with them, but you're not going to. I don't expect you to use that same verbiage around everybody. I'm not just going to put it around everybody. I know you're going to have some settings where you're going to have to use other words and have other meanings because you're going to have stuff that you're going to be talking about. I know I can't go up here and tell anybody anything about terps, about THCA, about none of this stuff without using other words that's going to go with it. Because they're going to have to end up going to some type of solution-based place, go through all type of testing, and all these words that they give me, most people is not going to understand when I read these sheets of paper off and tell you what this means and this is and this is and this is. And what the hell is that? Okay, oh, this is this. Oh, this is this. You know what I mean? Like, that's what's going to end up happening. There's going to be a learning type of conversation. Oh, I didn't even know that's what that was. I didn't know that's what that word mean. Okay, well, yeah. But that's not a conversation I'm having when I'm on it. Like I said, I'm doing business with somebody and I'm trying to set up a contract. This person need a good 2 hectares or a half a hectare of its own green of its own marijuana plant, and I got to make sure I can get that correct. Well, have a type of conversation with them where I can get this business done so I can get this contract. I'm not going to be sitting here talking about, oh, I ain't doing nothing but just sitting at the house, Kool-Aid and then chilling with, you know what I'm saying, smoke. I'm not going to do all that.
You said Kool-Aid, and I've never.
Kool-Aid, you know what I'm talking about? Like, you know, Kool-Aid, you know, when nigga just sit there just be talking forever about nothing. You know what I mean? So
something that caught my attention, Resla, why did you use the word accouchement?
I'm sorry, say
in what
again?
context? In what context were you utilizing the word accouchement?
Well, I was just saying that it's a word that I never even. I was about to say never even, but it's a word that I've always been trying to figure out a good sentence to throw it in, because I know it would throw people off, but I've never really discovered that sentence to really put it in. That's all.
I'll give you an example. Sorry, I'm a linguistic fanatic. The best way you can utilize a word like accouchement in English, because of its origins and its meaning, you could say the accouchement of the Industrial Revolution.
Okay, a great example. Great example. Like I said, well, in the middle of, right in the beginning of, or rather in the middle of a conversation, it's just never the word that pops up. So
Oh,
because
yeah.
I never practiced enough to actually throw it in to be a regular thing that I would say. So I just like, oh, that would be a great thing to just throw everybody off on.
Yeah, no, exactly. And the funny thing is that accouchement, it's actually a word of English mistranslation of French. So when you said it, if you say it to me, I am gonna understand, because I'm my brain is gonna immediately translate it to French, and it's, oh, is he referring to the term to give birth in French? And that's, but yeah, I get, you know, that's something interesting about this. Also part of the conversation. Look, I'm gonna put it on the table. North Americans do have something that is extremely difficult, especially United States. Since a lot of them are monolinguistic, they can only think in a monolinguistic way. And it happens a lot to people when they become bilingual or trilingual or polyglot, that they start realizing that a monolinguistic way of thinking or framing ideas isn't enough. Um, Hell, English, about 24-30% of English is has influence of Latin languages such as French, Spanish, and Portuguese. Accouchement is one word that has origins in all French, that then is utilized very rarely in English, but one that is a lot. For example, uh, let me give you an example. One that is used a lot in English is baguette, a baguette of bread. A baguette, the word baguette is used every single day in the United States in
It is.
English, and it's a French word.
It is.
Huh? So, in that sense, in my perspective, as somebody who's polyglot, I've always fascinated into that. How
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. KTS threw me off because I was just thinking about coffee a moment ago. Threw me off when you said that. This topic requires my morning mentality.
yeah, especially talking to women, man, because
Listen,
I
I
haven't
wanted to
wanted
make this a morning three. I wanted to make this a morning stream, but I got caught up. I got caught up with some work stuff, so I couldn't do it.
Yeah,
I was like,
same
"Damn
notes.
it."
I just got back home, so. But yeah, no. I don't know if I was making the point in that sense. It's just, you know,
Well, well, that's the thing. You've already brought up a topic that's very, well, I won't say difficult, but it's uncommon. Most people don't run across someone who is studying the origin of languages. You know what I mean? So linguistics, it goes over a lot of people's heads. 'Cause even when you're mentioning things, I'm really thinking about its origins in real time. And which is why I'm like, okay, I can agree with that part. Yes, I know where this derives from, because I study verbiage that I would like to add to my arsenal. So I understand when I do that deep dive and where they came from. So I that part I get. But if I want to study exactly how those words came to be, I'm lost. Like that falls beyond my purview.
Here, the Western Hemisphere is a bit easier because we have the Romance languages
Mm.
plus English. So basically, we have four major languages, which are, the Romance languages plus English. And what's interesting is that, like I said, English has about 20-30% of it has is directly influenced by Greco-Roman languages, and the rest, yes, is mainly a, a, um, a Greco-Anglo-Saxon origin. But then it's yeah, it's interesting because then you learn that, for example, the other day we were talking about love, the word love, you know, and I brought this up. I said, yeah, but for me, love is also amor or amore. So I have two words to describe the word love.
But John dipped on us because apparently we're getting a little too far. So let me get to pull things back a little bit on topic, because we were talking about logical fallacies.
He
And
sent me a text message. He said that signal was weak going through the mountains and shit. So he in the chat though. We're gonna pay
well,
attention to the
then
chat.
what he should do is he need to put that lot lizard on the roof of his trailer hitch so
Make a
that she can
spin in a
hold the hitch
circle.
up.
You get a better signal when you spin around in the sucker.
So I'm gonna ask questions to you two, but I also want the chat to get involved in this as well. So the first question I asked just before you got on was us basically talking about how do you, when you're having a conversation with someone about actual fallacies, right? What tactics do you use, or what strategies do you use to to ensure that they're not being defensive when you're having a conversation with them? That was the first question. Question I'm gonna ask to you two, but also to the chat as well, is like, how do you deal with someone who always uses ad hominem attacks in their arguments? And I'll start with you, OG.
Uh, well, y'all notice that my basic tactic is to let them keep on spitting them at homonyms because what they gonna do? Yeah. What they gonna do is make a mumble rap song, and OG just gonna keep on spitting weed logic at you and win the W. You know what I'm saying? That's just me. Nah, but I usually just let them do it. I don't. On a serious note, I let them do it, and I just stick to the facts. If I know something that is right, or if I can go look something up, or you know what I'm saying, and break them. Especially if we minding something out, then we gonna have to either agree or disagree, or we're gonna have to come to a point to where, you know what I'm saying, we're both gonna be either on the same page. So if not, so well.
KTS worker, that's not fair. You're trained. Most people listen to respond, not to understand. Most people are not emotionally sound. That's not fair. You're trained, madam. This though, what do you think about it? How do you deal with people who throw out ad hominems?
Well, like OJ was saying at the beginning, if somebody wants to spin me a yarn, yeah, no, I'm gonna unspawn that damn motherfucking yarn so fast that the person's not gonna know that it's going that not at 360, but at 740, man. As simple as that. But no, seriously, in that sense, it depends on the context. But most of the time, if a person is throwing out homonyms or insults to the person and not fighting the argument, that just tells me the person doesn't know what the hell they're talking about most of the time, and they have to go into the insult and go into the personal aspect. So either I can choose to go down to the level and really hit him hard with the insults, or B, just simply like the saying in Latin America says, "A palabras necias oídos sordos." To stubborn words, deaf ears.
Okay. I'm looking through the chat besides John the Baptist, who told me and OG to go to jail.
That's the thing.
Because he knows.
See, now look, this is exactly what we talking about. We and Resla didn't say nothing wrong. We gave you two facts. He said put on top of the car, and I told her to spin around in the circle so she can get a better signal. That we ain't said nothing wrong. but we gonna go to jail. You right. We love you, John.
So I'm looking here in the chat to see what they're talking about. Oh my gosh! Of course, of course. He says, "No, you take my look. Stop your shit, locksmith. Stop your shit." All
Cutting
right.
up.
So our next question is: what is the best way to explain to someone that they're using a straw man argument? And I'll start with this though.
Well, to make it very simple, it's easy to identify a strawman argument when, for example, there you're discussing whatever argument, and then the person comes around and says, "Well, but look at B." But when B doesn't mean anything in regards of the argument that you are referring to, so you tell the person, "Hold on." It's easy to confuse a straw man with a goalpost moving or a deflection or a excuse. So normally you try to reel back the conversation into the point, but if the person persists on that straw manning, on that moving the goalpost, on that diversifying the points of the argument, then you come to realize this person doesn't want to treat the argument. They want to just sell their talking points, and that's it. And mostly of the time, you'll know that that person is BSing you because the points that they're trying to make are just slogans. And when you press them to go deeper, they get lost.
Okay. You know what? I'll take that because it still makes sense with what we're talking about. OG.
Uh, I agree. I definitely agree. I'm looking at what Khan just took the words right out of my mouth, but I'm not going to read what he put on there. But he's basically right. Man, when people get to the point, bro, where you're putting too much facts on them or you giving them something available that they can really see and see that they're wrong, they go to the point, bro, where they try to find a way to get out of it, get out of the conversation. And that's
He's a
basically what this
runner.
though just said. You know what I'm saying? And I
He's a
feel like
runner.
yeah, he's a runner. And when they get the running like that, bro, it's best to let the person, because I tried to make people stand on what they said. And even like he said, like this though just said, bring the conversation back so we can, and even try to, you know what I'm saying, not try to move the goalposts or anything like that, but try to get it to where I can get an answer from them. And you notice you never get an answer from people. So you just get to a point where you're just gonna have to just let them just keep on doing their thing. Because I mean, obviously the conversation need to move on because they at the point now where they don't have no knowledge on what the hell they saying. They just saying something just to say something because they don't want to be caught in, or they don't want to be caught wrong, or they don't want to be thought of as being wrong.
Side note, I was almost gonna agree with you, but then you said Children's Medical Center. I was the best slumber party buster, but then you said Children's Medical Center, and I had to disagree.
Yeah, they got. I ain't gonna say that. Leave that alone. I'm gonna leave that alone. I almost fucked up. I was about to go in, nigga. I was about to say something crazy. Yeah, then I
I
said
said I
that
had
shit.
to stop.
It was funny in my head. I'm like, nigga,
Yep.
nah, everybody ain't gonna take that shit the right way.
That's
They
not
gonna
thinking.
like, this
Look,
nigga
me
OG
stop.
crazy.
I almost went there. Stop. All right. So some people already gave their ideas. So everybody in the chat as well. What do you think? Which fallacy? Which of the ones that I spoke about today? I spoke about 5. By the way, just because you came in late, let me tell you the 5 that I talked about today. This though. So I talked about the straw man. I talked about ad hominems. I talked about people who use slippery slopes. I talked about false dichotomy. I talked about what was the last one? Oh, the appeal to emotions is what I also talked about. Was there another one? Straw man, straw man, slippery slope, false dichotomy, appeal to argument. I feel like I'm missing something. Oh, and ad hominems. Sorry. Yeah, those are the five that I touched on today. With that, which fallacy do you think is the hardest to spot in the conversation, and why? And since Disto started last, I'll go with you, OG.
You can spot a homonym real fast.
No, which one do you think is hardest to spot?
Yeah, hard to spot. If I'm saying, I'm trying to go through them in my head real quick. I'm just saying them out loud.
I got you.
I
I got
speak
you.
to myself sometime. You know what I'm saying? Make sure I'm.
That's all right. You can go crazy. It's all right.
Well, I'm gonna say straw man because I feel like that's your final. That's the end all be all when it comes to the conversation not leading anywhere. Because everything else that you're saying, I can use that as each one of the others as a point of reference where you're moving the conversation. But when I realized that you don't have nothing else to say and you really just, and I really can't bring the conversation back to the first point of where we was talking about, yeah, I'm gonna go with Strawberry.
Interesting. Disto, what about you?
Yeah, in my position, I would say that the hardest fallacy to catch is actually one of the most simple ones. It would be the appeal to what you call appeal to emotion,
Your
or the
emotion.
ad baculum. The ad baculum is one that is the hardest to break because it's highly attached to the emotional state of that individual. So, give you an example. Somebody says, "I saw a ghost. I believe in ghosts." Okay, fine. But saying I believe in ghosts and I saw a ghost, an anecdotal is not evidence enough, because you may be lying. You may be making up a story. You may have misperceived what you saw. So, that's just an example. So that is one of the hardest ones to break, because you have to then present the person with an actual um, line of argument of saying, okay, first, and I'm going to explain it this way very simple. First, I don't care what you saw, what you think you saw, or what you believe you saw. What evidence do you have of what you saw in order for me to have an external form of falsifying it, verifying it, etc.? So that is one of the hardest ones. It's called the ad back column.
Okay.
Well,
So for you,
let me ask this real quick. So
go ahead.
if somebody continues the conversation and tries to manipulate the conversation, continuing their feelings, which you already know this is what they're pushing is nothing but feelings. Eventually, you're going to find out that this is a straw man conversation because they don't have nothing else to talk about. You're not going to think that before you see this person get into their emotional stance of where they're going, because like you just explained, first of all, they're going to tell you the two things. One is that they believe in it, and then they seen it. So next, you're going to have to go into all these different conversations when I'm asking you, why do you believe this stuff? And why do you believe in them? Why do you think that you've seen it? You're going to have to try to explain all this. Now, once I figure out you start getting mad to the point where you can't explain it, that's going to be one. Homonyms is going to come because you can't basically you can't really give me a good explanation on why you think in the way that you think. And I'm not going, and like I said, that's why I put straw man at the last. Not saying that you're wrong. I'm just looking at it at a different point, because I think you making more sense than I am when you come to the emotional part, because I think it would be hard for you to try to say somebody is emotional on what they on how they presenting that, but it would be very hard. But what I'm thinking is I wouldn't know that they straw men in the conversation if I don't know that they're not emotional. Because this is going to become some point in time, I'm going to realize, like, now, okay, this ain't going to go nowhere because you're just emotional. But then I'm going to try to give you, like I said, if I have to get back to the point, like, okay, let's just bring it back to the point. After you did all this talking about why you trying to tell me why you believe in it and why you thought you seen it, explain to me. The question I'm asking you was different from what you're telling me. So I'm trying to get the person to answer a question for me why they believe in that. It's not that you know what I'm saying? It's not that you seen the shit. You know what I'm saying? I understand why you thought you seen it because you just sat here and gave me all of that. But you wouldn't, still not going on the point to why you believe in it.
What's good, LA?
And they, like I said, that's the thing I was thinking.
Yeah, I wanted to add into what you were saying because it's important. Yes, all arguments made by us humans are our emotional response. However, not all arguments made by us humans has to respond to that emotional response. See what I'm doing right there? There is a
Yeah.
distinction to be made. So if I can present something that is abstract or away from my feelings, and I can present it with an objective basis, meaning a good source or a good series of sources, etc. Then what I'm doing is I'm abstracting the knowledge from my emotion to the terrain of, or to the arena of knowledge. So to make it simple, you can know when a person knows what the hell they're talking about when that person shows you no emotion in regards of what they're presenting beyond the passion of they love what they're presenting, they feel happy presenting it, etc. But then that doesn't that doesn't go into the whole presentation. I don't know if I'm making myself clear on that sense. I'm
No,
trying
no, no,
to.
no, no, no. You making yourself clear. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I get exactly what you're saying.
So
And
in that,
like I said, I can agree with you on that point. I'm just thinking of, like I said, I get exactly where you're coming from with it. I'm just thinking of a person, even when they do, where would that conversation end up going? Even though they're not showing you the emotional part of what they just basically speaking what they know, and what they know is what's presented to them. So you letting this person just go on, and eventually it's going to get to a point where that's why I think you're saying that you're going to realize like this conversation is not going anywhere. You're going to realize everything else, and then you're going to see the last is going to be, okay, this is just emotional. Even though he's not showing it, you're going to realize that last. So that's why I said I see where you're going with that. Am I
because you
correct?
don't need, yeah, in a way, make it even more simple. Don't talk to the person, talk to the argument.
Yes. Okay.
Focus yourself on the argument and disregard the individual who's there. So if you are attacking the argument and you're attacking whatever they're throwing at you, then the conversation starts taking those different routes that it needs to take. And of course, the best technique for that is the typical uh, posing questions in order to clarify or to search those points. So don't 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 talk to the person, talk to the argument. That's like something that I always try to do.
I for one appreciate that because I think a lot of people don't really speak to the argument. I think some try. Most people, even when they're initially speaking about the argument, eventually fall into an emotional state, which is even one. It's funny when you're both having this conversation because the one conversation that I always say, I say this to HR representatives, I say this to my family, I say this to my friends. I said I never want to be in a situation where I have to have a logical argument against an emotional one. Because typically people are people jump into the emotional argument rather than following the actual logical argument being made. Most people fall to the crying tears. Most people focus on the outburst. People look at the person who is being measured, being concise, as the person who is looked at as the heartless one and being dishonest, as the person who is, quote, the manipulator, rather than being the person who is the one speaking the truth. It's terrible. We do for a lot of people, we don't measure composure. We measure outburst. We don't measure composure. We never said, damn, that mofo was really measured in that situation. I think I would have lost my shit. No, we look at the people who do an outburst and then we have to tell them to calm down. We never look at someone who's measured and turn around and say, amp it up. We don't do that. So I see people, this is why I was talking with even KTS worker in the chat. Most people become used to seeing outbursts and seeing emotions in someone who's measured. We almost demonize people who are measured. But this is also why there's a big hit against stoicism, because it comes off as being calculated and cold. That's just my little sidebar, but that's how people look at those kind of things. Because a person is sitting there and they're removing their emotional context out of it to take care of the situation at hand and not let the emotional aspect dictate their actions. Which is why OG, you made a great point with yours. But I kind of fall on the same time at the same side as this though. I hate being in an emotional argument when I'm trying to be logical. I really dislike it. Because of not just how I think about the situation, but how other people outside are thinking about the situation. Just my thoughts. People have different opinions about whatever, but even when I was thinking about these particular topics, the emotional or appeal, the emotions are a big problem for me. Which is why even when we are in court cases, they try to put the person on the stand to create an emotional argument against the jurors. Because logic is just not gonna be enough. The jurors are there to be logical. When you give them any emotional factor, that's where things get muddied.
That goes back to that. That goes back to that shit, bro. Where again, it's the whole system is going to be emotional when it comes to that stuff, because it's all about how the person. It's about the law and how the law is, but it's not like that. We see many cases in court where they say the judge has more power over this. That they had all the power over the decision, not more. They have all the power over the decision. So if they feel like you should get 5 extra years added on there, if they don't think that the 6 that you got was enough, they literally can add what the fuck they want to add on to it. That's why I don't want to. That's why I don't really look at that as the same. But I see where you're coming from with it. But I because of the way, like you just said, how people can say certain things and make other people feel, and it'll change their thinking of thought. You know what I'm saying? Or thought of thinking. Put it that way.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, OG. Have you seen more people were persuaded by people who are emotional or people who are logical?
Emotion.
That's the point that I'm making.
Yeah.
We are so accustomed to people to coddle other people's emotions, even when we know they are batshit crazy, rather than those who are extremely illogical. Someone who is being extremely logical is looked at with concern. They looked at as being cold and callous. That's the point. I've even seen this happen. Me personally, with I've made a call for someone that I had beef with, and I had 6 officers in my apartment. You only needed 2. I know they come in pairs. There was no reason for me to have six people in my apartment for something so small. And they were looking at me with skepticism because I was so measured. But the person who had the big outburst, which was one of my next door neighbors, he was all over the board, and they were like, "No, calm down. Hey, we're on your side." Ain't nobody said I was on my side. I'm the one that made the call, by the way. No one set up on my side. In fact, they came back and they accused me of possibly making shit up because I was measured, because I didn't have outbursts, because I wasn't punching the wall and throwing shit. There is something to that. This is why I cannot stand being in an emotional argument when it comes to people, because I think that the idea of being measured doesn't necessarily help you out unless you have literal evidence to back it up.
You know what's interesting in my circumstance? My type of law here in Central America, as well, majority of South America and the Caribbean, we don't have a jury. When you are tried in a court of justice, you're tried in a always typically in a bench type of court. So it's the prosecutor, the defense in front of the judge. And usually is a triumvirate. A triumvirate is three judges sitting on the space to make the decision. Why do we make it a triumvirate? Because three would normally have a better um, a better um, avoidance of bias, to say it that way. So, in my circumstance, one thing I've always learned is that when people are emotional, they respond they respond based on their own prejudice and on their own bias. Emotion leads to prejudice and emotion leads to bias in most of the circumstances. In other circumstances, emotion leads to rash decision making, meaning that because you are emotional, you are going to make a rash decision that in otherwise circumstances you may not make in that circumstance. So you know what's interesting and some of that said, um, if we look at the complete list of all the potential fallacies that are out there, just for example, if we just go for hell, appeal appeals to look, it's so easy to spot because you have the from appeal to anger to appeal to false authority to appeal to emotion to ignorance to majority to pity to spite to sympathy. So just on the fact of the fallacies that are based on appeal, pretty much you have the whole spectrum of what is to be a human.
Good way of putting that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good way of putting that.
I wasn't even thinking of that.
Yeah. Damn. That was a great way of putting that. Huh.
Yeah, I would have never thought of that, bro. I'm high as shit.
I'm not even high. I'm just drinking.
I ain't gonna lie to you, I would have never thought of that.
I'm not
ain't
high.
drunk,
I'm
but I
not
was
high
like,
right now. I'm in a.
I was
If
like,
I
I
were
ain't drunk,
high,
but damn, that was
well,
good.
yeah. But yeah, so I mean, look, there are conversations that require knowledge and require in-depth understanding of what we're conversing on. Give you an example. Um, what are constitutional republics? What are the elements of those constitutional republics? How are
Mhm.
they structured? Blah blah blah. All that type of necessity. What are the how is the constitution structured in modernity? What are its elements? Blah blah blah. Versus a conversation like, "Yo, did you see the last? I don't know. I'm just gonna give whatever show. Chicago Fire last the beginning of the season. That doesn't require much. You just require sitting down and watching the 20-30 minutes of the show to have that conversation. Oh yeah, I saw what happened. Da, 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 da. See what I'm getting to, or like Dude, did you hear the last song of whatever XYZ artist comes up to mind? And if the other person says no, you say, oh, I recommend it. And a conversation. Later on, oh, I heard it. I like this, I like that, I didn't like this, I didn't like that. That type of conversation doesn't require much. But then if you go into a conversation of economics and a person comes around and tells you the evil of the Jews and the way they control the banks, you know they're bullshitting you. You know that's not how the world works, type of thing. See what I'm getting at? I don't know. Am I making myself clear?
Yeah, no, I follow you. I follow you. It's I don't know. It's an interesting place for people. But yeah, I to put it all home, I do agree with you. I see exactly where OG was going, but I was thinking to myself about the emotional part when it comes to people. Now, when I think about like social media platform, which is so funny because like I am one to shit on influencers, even though I am a content creator myself. I'm not an influencer, but I am a content creator. And I do put forth a critical thinking channel, which so I guess at some point some person might look at me as that. But do you think that social media platforms encourage logical fallacies, basically by the quick rewarding, or rather the emotional response of people, and they're over? How do I? Okay, let me stop. Like I said, OG smoking, I'm drinking, so let me make sure I make this as simple as I can for myself. Because I say things, but I'm also thinking about it quickly before it comes leaves my mouth. Do you think that social media platforms, generally specific? Just give me one moment so I can get this out. Uh, do you think that social media platforms encourage logical fallacies by rewarding quick emotional responses over thoughtful ones? That's gonna be my question. But before we get into that, generally specific. Thank you for showing up, man.
What's good with your brother?
Appreciate the opportunity to have a hopefully a meaningful and intelligent conversation about things that make you go, That's what I'm interested
Awesome.
in.
Or
Sounds great.
things that make you go, ah.
There you go. That sounds even better because that means it sounds like you learned something, and that's what I'm about.
Exactly. Welcome.
Thank you.
Do you
So
need
I
to
don't
catch
I
up
don't
on the
want
conversation, or have you caught
well
up?
I don't want to interrupt the flow of it. I'll probably just put my hand up and sit back patiently wait to be called on if I have something I want to add.
Awesome.
But when you're talking about emotion, right? The appeal of emotion. That to me, that's a very feminine trait.
Well,
Um,
well, well.
but
It's not necessarily the appeal of emotion. So the concept of the show. So I made a stream a while ago about logical fallacies, and I list a whole bunch.
okay.
But for today's show, I was talking about general logical fallacies that we tend to come across, and I mentioned 5 of them. And the 5 that we're talking about, the first one being the straw man arguments that they made, the ad hominems. Obviously, we all experience. You're a content creator, I'm pretty sure, or someone who's been on panels, so I'm pretty sure you understand that. The slippery slope arguments that people make, the false dichotomies, and then the last one was the appeal to emotions, and that's how we kind of got into that conversation. So that's where we're at right now.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I find it interesting because appeal to emotions would be a tactic that a lot of females would use. If you're having a logical conversation with about something that they either are trying to avoid accountability for or not take any kind of responsibility for a decision that they made or a choice or words that they said, a lot, when they realize that they're absolutely out of options, they usually go the nuclear tears option, where they'll try to think that, and most men will fall for this because I mean, men find it very awkward to watch a woman cry. The last thing they want to do is make a woman cry, more often than not. So, it's interesting that is a logical or an illogical argument because it's coming from a place of emotion. I'd like your input on that.
Uh,
If you think
so
it
let me,
applies
let me
to
ask
that
you a
argument.
question. Well, let me ask you a question about this. So let's just say I'm gonna make a scenario, but if a person is put on the jury stand and the guy who is on the stand giving his testimony is due to something that he feels, I'm going to put that out there because I hate using it, but I'm going to say that he feels that he is being charged for something that he is not, that he did not do. He is charged for a crime that he feels like he did not commit, and he becomes emotional, not angry, but emotional. Maybe he could be tearing up, but he doesn't necessarily break in tears, or maybe he even does break in tears. And that is something that's brought forth towards a jury of his peers. Is that not an appeal to emotions?
I perhaps we're conflating like I mean someone having a very passionate story or a very moving story. I don't know if it's based in fact, reason, evidence, and logic and empirical data, meaning this happened in this situation, and just the telling of the story tends to evoke a particular emotional response. That's not really. It might be the aim of the teller of the story or the narrative, but it's not the fault of the teller of the narrative if they're just relaying things that factually happen. Now, if they're trying to manipulate you, right, that could be a different story, especially if they're
Yeah.
lying.
Yeah, no, I got you. We weren't necessarily making or rather, I'll say for this though, based on what I heard, there was not a conversation that was basically made on manipulation. Just matter
Okay.
of dealing with issues that are on the appeal of emotions. That's just what it is.
Yeah, no, what I was referring to is in the sense that if we look just on the list of fallacies that are directly to appeal, in a sense, then we see the whole range of humanity expressed into that, because you can make appeal to anger, which is a form of either manipulation or weak reasoning in order to avoid the central subject. To say, I'm going to give you an example. A typical example of an appeal to anger would be somebody's discussing about COVID or flu. Then somebody says, I feel angry because the government puts us all in quarantine. That's an appeal to anger. Or give you another example. Um, appeal to authority. An appeal to authority is very typical. Somebody comes up and says, I have this book that says this, and because this says this, this is true. That's an appeal of an authority. That's a form of an emotion. Um, Gotta give you another one just for the heck of it. Um, let me think in that sense. Okay, look. Uh, Argumentum ad superbiam, or the argument to the pride, to vanity. Flattery tends to be utilized as a form of an appeal in argue in argument in arguments, in that sense, or the infamous appeal to pity, because look at them, they're bad, we must feel pity for them. So there are different ways for that to express in that sense. So that's what I was referring to, that when you just simply analyze the informal or either formal forms of fallacy, and we just focus on one of them, which is the appeal to X, then we see the whole range of humanity just expressed on that. That's what I was referring to.
Any thoughts on that? All right.
Do we have
All right.
do we have an example that we're examining, or like something that has happened recently, or are we
No,
just okay?
no,
No.
we're just chopping it up and talking about that. I didn't have anything specific I was talking about with this. We're just literally covering fallacies and really what was our experience in dealing with that, whether it's us here on the panel or whether it's people that's actually got in the chat. Um, which was one of my other questions was, how do you handle it when someone refuses to acknowledge that they have been using a fallacy in an argument? And since you're on general specific, I'll start with you based
Can,
on the
can-
fallacy that you already used. And if you want me to state them again, I will.
well, no, if you could just repeat the premise of your question just one more time, so I want to make sure they're very clear. How can we determine when someone's utilizing one of these fallacies?
How do you handle the situation when someone is refusing to acknowledge that
Okay.
they've used a fallacy in an argument?
I think just the mere fact that they're using a logical fallacy in the first place would denote that they have the inability or lack the capacity to be self aware of where they might need to improve on parts of their lives. That in and of itself would make it an uphill climb to back them up and maybe point it out. I think the best thing to do would probably be to try to have as neutral of a source as possible be the thing that points it out to them. Like, for instance, look up the appeals or the what's the word, logical fallacies. Just have them look up a neutral site and say, hey, this is I found this reading fascinating. I was just curious, what do you think about this website? Now, if it's somebody that's close to you in your orbit and you care about that relationship, you don't want to hit the thermonuclear button on them. You know what I'm saying? So maybe if you put something on a table somewhere, like a little printout, like, oh yeah, I was printing that up. This is something I found interesting. Yeah, you can look at it if you want. I mean, I know it sounds a little, but it's a lot more gentle than you need to read this. You need to get educated, because then that the pride kicks in, as D was talking about. I'm not sure his name. I apologize. Can't see his-
It's this
Yes,
though.
though.
But let me ask you a question to follow up with that. So what do you think was so you said leave something out for them, but what do you think was the best way to teach someone about logical fallacies without making them feel without having them be defensive?
Well, Jesus. I mean, I'll bring Jesus into it because he guides my life pretty regularly. There's analogies in the secular world, and there are parables in the biblical world, and a parable is basically a religious analogy. Jesus would often talk in parables because, and the claim was, those who have ears to hear, let them hear; those who have eyes to see, let them see. And the disciples asked Jesus, "Why is it when you with us you talk this way, but when you're with the multitudes you speak and you speak thusly in parables?" And basically it's like, let's say you're a carpenter and I'm an electrician. And if I only speak in carpenter terms and you know nothing about carpentry, I mean, you just barely, yeah, that's wood, that's a nail, I get it. But if I'm starting to talk in more elite carpentry terminology and methods, a lot of it might go over your head. And if you're only speaking to me as an electrician would speak to me in ways that I wouldn't understand, it's going to go over my head. Therefore, if communication is like two ships sailing in the night with the foghorns, and that's all they're really hearing, they don't know where they are. That's problematic to a conversation or progressing a conversation. But if we both understand what it's like to have a flat tire on the side of the road, and you first you loosen the lugs, then you jack it up, then you fully take off the lugs. You know what I'm saying? So we can talk to each other in something that we could understand as men, or as people in general. So the best way to try to figure out a way to have a common understanding and agreement is first know where you're at, know where they're at, and then and like, as a leader, as I spent time in the military, we all think everyone was brought up like us. And then when you start to see, you're like, whoa, all right, this guy don't know how to wash his nasty ass. And this guy over here doesn't know how to fold laundry. This guy can't clean his room when I do my room inspection. And so, as a leader in the military, not to cause shame, but we all assume that everyone had our upbringing, for better or for worse. And we get shocked and surprised when we meet people that they look at us like, where did you learn to do that? What do you mean? Where did I learn to clean up after myself? It's what I had to do as, you know what I mean, as a child or something like that. And it really, you start to learn to meet people as a leader where they are, not necessarily where you want them to be. So you got to kind of meet them where they're at, and then you have to try to walk them to where you need them to be, or
If
where they
if
should be.
if I
It's a
may,
long answer, right?
um, I want to roll back to something that Resla said. The question was, is the modern age of social media, the democratization of communication, something that has created or has shown the fallacies of people that
No, no,
people
no.
don't.
Let
No,
me
no.
let me say it so
Can you
that
rephrase it? Yeah.
no, let me say it so that there's no confusion. And I literally said, do you think that social media platforms encourage logical fallacies by rewarding quick emotional responses over thoughtful ones?
Yeah, but that's a different conversation from what he was having with
Yeah, yeah, and
Well,
that's
well,
I'm just letting you know that.
I did ask general specific an
Yeah,
additional question. I
I know.
did.
Yeah, he asked some additional
but
questions. So
but I wanted to answer that question and then reel it back to
okay,
the
got you. Go ahead.
conversation. 100% yes. That's it. Yes, it does reward, and we see it more often than not. It does reward the imposition and the appeal to authority and the look. Let's be simple. Social media is the best terrain to see examples of Dunning-Kruger effect. When people are extremely overconfident of their knowledge, then they show themselves to be overconfident. But then somebody like me or an academic or somebody who has studied the subjects comes around and tells them no. And what is rewarded is the bravery of that overconfident individual over the one who spent time learning about XYZ subject and trying to get to the minutia and spend 6, 7, 8, 10 years of their life in academic backgrounds, learning, burning their eyes, doing the work in order to be able to speak about XYZ subject. So the answer is most definite yes, and it's an unfortunate byproduct and effect of social media. That anybody remember the movie Blazing Saddles? You know
no,
that part.
I ain't never watched nothing like that.
Yeah, you couldn't make that movie today.
Yeah, well, Blazing Saddles had this phenomenal part where the sheriff, who was black, he was saying to Gene Wilder, remember that part, the hands, the shaking of the hand. He was saying, "Don't worry, they're gonna accept me as the longer I am." And then he goes out, and a woman just turns around and says, "Up yours, nigga."
Mm-hmm.
And then on the next scene,
Wait
he's
a
sitting
minute.
down, and Gene Wilder's telling him, these are common people. These are people of the land. These are just ordinary people, blah, 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 blah. Morons. And that is what is happening today in many of the social media. Morons with microphones speak stupidity.
Well, it's interesting. So is that a bug, or is that a bug, or by design? Is that a flaw in the system, or is that a part of the system to indoctrinate people to become more uneducated and thus more pliable and more controllable? So, and to kind of answer your original question, if it bleeds, it leads, right? If it's sensational, if it's Maury Povich, if it's Jerry Springer, if it's, it doesn't have to make sense. It just has to get eyeballs and get attention. That seems to be the tension is the currency, right? Paying attention. Like, you want people to tune into your show. You want to have these conversations. You want to, the intentionality, the subtext, the context, and the pretext of your, like, if you're putting your show on, and let's say you had this all set up, it says how to spot logical fallacies in everyday conversation. So the pretext is at the show you're going to put on at a certain time. You have your thumbnail picked out, right? And then you show up on your show. You've got your set. I love it. It says don't quit, but the N and the T are crossed out, and the Q and the U are. It says do it, right? No excuses, basically, right? I mean, everything that you've there's an intentionality to what you've put on your set to send a particular message. There's a way, the clothes that you chose to wear today, the way you've groomed yourself. There's an intentionality there that you're trying to relay a particular type of a message or a thought, right? And so that's the same thing with social media. Now, to further the point, Do you find it interesting that let's talk about TikTok? TikTok in China compared to TikTok in America. You remember when TikTok came out in America and you had all these like crazy people like doing these gyrating dances as they're saying
Still doing it.
idiotic facts. I don't have TikTok, but then in China, what they push forward in their algorithm is STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So what they do is they push forward good things. They push forward role models of how they want their people to achieve and to go and to strive. And meanwhile, we got dancing Riri's doing dancing Riri TikTok things. And I understand that the average person, one of the things that I thought was the funniest thing in the world is, when a politician says, the American people aren't as dumb as you think they are. I would actually argue it's worse. So, and I'm part of that. I mean, there are things that I believe that there's three types of people in the world. To D's point, there's stupid people, there's ignorant people, and there's willfully ignorant people. Right? You can't fix stupid. You're just born that way. It's not your fault. And I don't mean this in a rude way. If I'm stupid to some things, probably chances I'll never learn them, no matter how smart I think I am. If I am ignorant, my ignorance can be allayed with information. If I seek the information and that information is well applied, it gives me wisdom, right? Knowledge well applied is wisdom. So that would allay my ignorance if I so choose to apply it. However, willfully ignorant people are the worst people on the face of the planet. Even in the face of the Dunning-Kruger effect, even in the face of overwhelming empirical data, reason, and evidence that what they think or believe is true is actually false, they'll still reject it. And that's problematic.
Can I ask you something real quickly? Would you say that belief is the death of reason?
Whoa, you said beliefs are the death of reason?
Believe is the death of reason. I would say I believe that 2 + 2 = 4, and I have every reason to believe that because I can count 2 fingers on one hand and 2 fingers on another hand, and it empirically shows to me, from my understanding of how the universe works, that 2 + 2 is indeed 4, not 5. I don't know if it's the death of. I don't know if belief is the death of reason. I would actually say that they kind of reinforce one another.
Yeah, I've never
if you're
heard of
being
it that way
objective.
before. Yeah, I've never heard of it that way before. But if you have a way to try to articulate that, I'm willing to hear it.
Yeah, actually, there's a reason why I asked that because it goes alongside this conversation. I'm gonna take Romance languages and English. Belief, the word belief, the etymological origin of belief in English comes from the West Germanic believe, which basically translates faith in, acceptance of.
Mm-hmm.
The word in Spanish, creencia, originates from credere, which has a very similar origin as in definition, which is to have, to deposit trust in. So when we speak of the element of belief, especially in the dialectical construction of something, of us humans, of us individuals, belief tends to be a killer of reason, because if you accept something as true, regardless of anything else, then you are entering that terrain or arena of the Dunning-Kruger effect, because you're going to grasp into that psychologically and you're going to say, this is the truth, this is my truth.
Well, are you talking about, but not to interrupt, but you're talking about this is my truth versus this is
my
the
truth. Yeah,
the truth, the way, the life is Jesus, and logos, meaning the word, comes from that. So the interesting thing is, are you confident in the words that you're saying to me right now?
Of course, if I weren't confident.
Do you know the etymology of the word confidence? Confidence. It's faith.
Confidencia.
You have faith. You have faith that what you're saying is true. How is that any different? You're talking secular faith is confidence. Religious faith is belief. They're the same thing in essence. So you're arguing secularly against your own argument when you're basically saying that belief is the death of reason. And it's an interesting, very interesting topic.
So wait, so let me ask this question because it falls in line with other things that I'm thinking about. Could we make the distinction between quote the belief and faith?
A distinction between belief and faith. I think belief is the evidence of things unseen, or no, faith.
Well,
I
I mean,
forget
because
what a term.
is that the point that you were saying, like 2 + 2 is 4, whatever?
Mhm.
People can believe in that because they've shown evidence for that to be true. You can look at your
Mhm.
fingers, you can look at other people that also relate to that, but faith is something that's different.
It's the belief in something that the evidence is unseen, I think, is the terminology for that.
Yes,
Or
yes.
I did it poorly. I apologize for that.
No, I got where you were going. I got where you're going.
Yeah, I think a child has, and Jesus even talked about this when the disciples were including him in the conversation of, Lord, who among us, or they weren't even including Jesus in the conversation, who among us will be greatest in heaven? And he called a child over and sat him down in the midst and said, I say to thee, verily I say to thee, unless you become like one of these little ones here, you by no means be first in heaven. Well, what does that require? I mean, if any of us have children, we know that we looked up to our fathers and our mothers, our fathers especially as boys, as the heroes. Like they were heroes. And you get to a certain age of reason where you start going, I don't know if he knows what he's talking about. And then you start questioning whether or not your dad knows everything. And then by a certain age, you know he's a complete idiot. And then by 25, you're sitting on the front steps going, Dad, you were right about all these things you said. I wish I would have listened. Listen, you had wisdom. So we have that childlike faith in our parents that they're not trying to harm us.
So
right?
let me track back real quickly on this.
Mhm.
You did present something in a linguistic sense. Confidence and confianza, again, if we're just going to go into Romance languages versus the English in itself, both of them have very similar origin in its current way of utilizing. Yes, both of them have the origin of lealty or lealtad,
Fealty, yeah.
fealty, and or faith in.
Mhm.
But here's the question: can you have faith without the necessity metaphysical implementation towards that concept? And if, for example, I'm confident of the things I'm saying, not because of a belief, but because of what I have studied and what I have connected to. Because there's another element within both words of confidence and confianza, which is the connection. The suffix, the prefix, sorry,
Mhm.
con refers to connection. So the word in itself, confidence and or confianza in Spanish, yes, the fianza part is the one that refers to that faith or etc. But the connection to the faith, then I would argue that the connection to that certainty that we can establish by the word of confidence does not necessarily require metaphysical approach, but it can also be approached by a systematic connection of evidence and of methodology in its application and its
Did you say
origin.
mythology or methodology? How you use it? Methodology? I just want to make sure.
Methodology,
Methodology.
metodología,
Mythology.
And by the way, tú hablas español un poquito, so it's very impressive that being a Spanish speaking person, you can speak as well in English. Like I wouldn't be able to speak your language as accurately. So I just wanted to
Yeah.
notate that. I'm not mocking you, bro. I'm actually rather
I
impressed.
appreciate it. I speak English, Spanish, eu falo português, je parle français.
Obrigado.
Obrigado.
No,
So, but yeah,
so what do you
continuing on
what do you call someone that speaks 4 languages?
polyglot.
Quadlingual. What do you call someone who can speak 3 languages?
Trilingual,
Trilingual. What do you call someone who speaks 2 languages?
bilingual,
Yeah. What do you call someone that only speaks 1 language?
gringo.
American.
Hey, I answered fast.
I was gonna say it.
Right? I mean, come
No,
on.
no, no. But
Let's just be real.
look, out of 340 million people right now, the last data I know, it's about 42% of your people are bilingual
Mhm.
in many ways, either English, French, English native language, English, Spanish, English, in lower sense, Portuguese. And I know that well, the Asian population, about what is it, 60 million people of Asian heritage speak either English Japanese, English Korean, English. So there is a lot of bilingualism in the United States, but
안녕하세요. 안녕하십니까.
there you got you. I'm not
할아버지.
good.
할아버지 means grandfather. 할머니 means grandma. That's Korean, by the way. Yeah, I spent a year
Yeah,
over in Korea.
my Asian languages, I can grasp Japanese, Cantonese somewhat,
Konnichiwa.
konnichiwa, but
Arigato.
I've focused my area of linguistics in Romance languages and in English.
Would you say that you're a cunning linguist? Huh? You see what I did there? You see what I did?
Yeah, I
I'm
see what
sorry.
you
I
did.
see
I'm
that
sorry.
play there.
I
I see
repent.
that.
I repent.
You know, I prefer not to talk about my private life there, but I've known to be enjoyable of certain kind of linguistic activities in my life.
I plead the fifth. Yes, that's what we should say. I plead the fifth. I'm a gentleman.
Well, I'm
Right.
not. I'm not under the United States Constitution,
Mhm.
but I do have a fifth, a way of in my Constitution of a fifth. But you know, I can say with all confidence that in my 43 years of life, I have practiced many arts of kind of linguistics um, activities.
So is it Resla? Resla? Is that what you
Yes,
like to be
sir.
called?
Yes.
Now that I've properly derailed the conversation, can you get us back on track and tell me to shut up? I apologize.
Oh no, no.
No, no,
Listen,
you good, you good. So look,
hold on.
let me say this, Rez.
Go ahead, OG. Go ahead.
I want to know is I want you to if you can, because we already got this answer in, which one would be the hardest? And matter of fact, I started and everything for you in the back. I'll just go ahead and post it for you real quick. So he, like he told you earlier, he started off with the conversation because, like he said, the title was the everyday conversation and finding and spotting the logical fallacies. So he said the straw man fallacy, the ad hominems, the slippery slope, the false dichotomy. How you say that? You know I'm high right now, bro.
Oh,
I'm not even
dichotomy.
looking
False dichotomy.
yeah, and appeal to emotion. So which one of those would you think would be harder to spot?
Harder
and I
to
think that's the
spot.
last question he was
Yeah,
on.
which
And
one
then
would be hard to spot in the conversation?
yeah.
Oh, okay. See, there we go. I completely misunderstood the question. Hardest to spot? It's a spot. I think people would probably fall to an appeal to emotion more than anything. Although straw man, it might be a little hard because depending on how talented you are to be able to try to straw man someone's argument, you could actually end up making them emotional.
Mm-hmm.
The more you straw
Yes.
man them, which will
Yes.
will become self defeating to their ability to argue logically. But I would say emotional would probably be. I mean, that's just without doing a real deep dive on it. That would be my initial response.
Okay,
And
I'm gonna catch you up. Were you caught up with us so far? Because basically, everybody agreed on the appeal to emotion. I said straw man would probably be the hardest for that same point that you just said, that you can make somebody emotional and then notice, you know what, this is a straw man fallacy. Just saying. So you basically caught up to where we were just at, bro. That's all I was saying. I like to stick to conversation. So
yeah.
Absolutely.
OG is right. In a nutshell, you just caught up. Because eventually, even when OG gave his point, I wholeheartedly agree with it. But I did lean more on the whole emotional part, which was the part that Disto made as well. Just because I just let me not say hate, that's a very strong word, but I really have a strong disdain for emotional arguments when it comes to logical ones. I really, really do.
How about loathe? LOATH.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Loathe.
Absolutely.
It kind of sounds like love.
Yeah, I really don't like it. It leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Like as someone who has to speak to a lot of people who are so many different emotions across the board in corporate industries. I'm just like,
You know what they say about what is the distance between love and loathe?
What is the distance?
Mhm.
Mm, I'm not sure what you're going with there.
you said love and loathe or loft and loathe?
The
Loathe,
different. Well,
loathe,
hold on. The difference or the distance?
the distance.
The
The
distance.
distance between love and loathe is the distance to a bed or a sword.
A bed
Oh
or a
shit.
sword?
Yo, that is crazy.
Yeah. Sometimes the sword comes out in the bed. Roger, heard.
Hey, yo, hey.
Yeah,
Take it.
that's really interesting. Yeah, take it. Don't crawl away from it. Get back here.
La distancia entre el amor y el odio es la cama o la espada. The distance between love and hate is the sword or the bed.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Very interesting.
You know, the opposite of love is not hate, in my opinion. I think it's indifference.
I was about to just say that. I was about to just really say
Yeah.
that indifference. This idea that people just think you need to hate. No, I always say this to people. The worst thing that you can do to your enemy is ignore them.
To pretend they don't even exist and they don't matter. It's
People
very
say,
interesting.
"Oh, get revenge." I said, no. Ignore them. Believe that whatever happened didn't happen.
So
Like they don't even matter. That is the worst thing that you can do to a person. And a lot of people don't seem to understand that to this day. To this day. I do have one last question I have for you guys, and that's basically with all the questions I've already been asking you guys today, how do you handle it when someone refuses? Well, no, I already said that. How does someone refuse to handle an argument? The one I said is that have you ever changed someone's mind um after they have realized that they have using a logical fallacy? Like, have you ever changed? Have you? No, let me change that. Let me take that back. Let me take that back.
Have you ever been able to point out a logical fallacy and it have a
No,
movement in
I'm
you?
gonna change it. I'm gonna change it because we're as much as we talk about other people. Let's put it on us.
Mhm.
Have you ever changed your mind about something after realizing that you yourself has used a logical fallacy? I know plenty of people who just double the hell down,
Yeah, it's
especially when it comes to online panels. I've seen people do it.
hmm.
Don't everybody all at once?
oh no,
Well, I
I was
Oh,
waiting for somebody to answer,
oh,
but yeah,
you know me. I'm ready to
I'm
go,
gonna
dog.
answer.
You usually look. So this whole time, you know me. I've been sitting back here chilling. You been saying who go first because last time
Same,
I went
same.
first,
All
I
right,
let
all right,
this
all
go
right.
on the next question. So I would just
So let
you
me do
make
it.
it. You make
Let me make it official.
I
Let me
was
make
just
it
ready to see who
official.
was going first. I'm over, got my hands rubbed together. Shit.
Here's what I'll do. Here's what I do. Since I've been asking for other people to go first, I'll go first. Then I'll have this though. Then you OG, and we're gonna end it off with general specific. So I, for one, have it's while it's been difficult, and I try to be very cognizant of what I'm saying. I for sure have known when I have done things whether I have been using a fallacy, and when I do recognize it, I try to stop myself and then actually apologize in that moment. Say, hey, I just realized something I did. It wasn't exactly it wasn't exactly correct. Here's what I meant to say. I didn't mean to derail what you're saying or accuse you of something that you didn't say. I try to do that in the moment. And if not, then I reach out to someone in the back end or even if another panel, whatever. I try to do that. Disto?
Yeah, quite simple answers. Yes, I have had circumstances in my life where I have to recognize that my own bias and my own, issues have had tainted into that. So it's rarely because, especially now that I'm older, but when I was younger, in my 20s, 18, 19s, that time of era where you think you know everything and you can handle everything, and then like they say, you know, the young Homo sapiens sapiens is the only animal that stumbles on the stone twice and blames the stone.
Damn, I've never heard that one before. That's nice.
So
For me, I'm gonna go ahead and say, yeah, I learned that a lot, bro. In the years, like Desto was saying, but I learned it more, bro, when I got more into the business I'm in now. Uh, Learning from, I'm gonna say, 3 specialist master growers, bro, on the concept of what I do, and to get to the level I'm in now, bro, I had a lot of, because that's a lot of impressment, a lot of, you know what I'm saying, you trying to get, that's a lot of word salad that I was using to get myself in a certain position. But once you got to go down and do the work, bro, and know everything that go into it, it's more than just words. You can have all the words. I can read all the books in the world, bro, on how to do the stuff that I do right now, bro. I never be smarter than them dudes on what they know, bro, and how because they way wiser than me. These dudes was not like no people who was 15, 20 years older than me. Now, these was like, when I say master, I mean master. These dudes is known by everybody. I was lucky enough to be around them just by the things I got to do and the things that I was saying to people. You know what I'm saying? It was, you know how the world go. It's who you know and who they know. And I was lucky enough to have a good mouthpiece, have a good way of structure of life, where I move. You know what I mean? That put me and open up doors for me that wouldn't open up from everybody else. Because you got to think about it. Most people would look at OG Do Dirty and be like, that ain't the type of dude that you'll have in a conference meeting like this. But at the same time, I know I can ship up and shape up and go in there and be the right type of person, had a conversation with to get to know the knowledge that I need to know. So these people taught me about that. And I have to give that up to them. So yeah, I had a lot of corrections in my life. It's on you, bro.
General
Yeah.
specific.
Sure. So interestingly enough, it's kind of what we talked about, which would be the least effective or easiest to point out logical fallacy, which would be the appeal to emotion. I think I've fallen prey to that because of the straw man, often coming from people that there's nothing worse than trying to genuinely engage with somebody in good faith and they act in bad faith. To me, it's a very interesting. It brings out a very interesting emotion in me, which I know would be the death of my logic, right? If I'm being emotional, it's going to be the death of my logic if anyone's apt enough to point it out. So that would be the thing that I've had to catch myself a lot on, is that becoming frustrated when dealing with people that probably never intended to argue in good faith, nor have the capacity or the wherewithal to argue in good faith. And learning how to temper that is really smart. And I like what OG said. I believe it was Socrates that said, "I know that I know nothing."
Mm-hmm.
And it's smart to, and again, it makes you humble. It keeps you humble, and that's a smart thing to be, is humble. Yeah, it's interesting. It's very interesting. Yeah, I would say emotion. Emotion is what I've had to check myself on quite often.
And yeah, I'd have to agree as well. Emotion is a big thing I have to check myself on. I understand very much from myself how quickly I could lose temper. It doesn't really happen till when it doesn't when it does happen. I'm like, holy shit! Like I'm really losing myself on this. But I like it's also the reason why I don't like to deal with people who tend to be emotional. I spend most of my times being more. It's weird because OG can tell you myself. I think I spend more time talking to OG than anyone else, even offside. But I tend to be very introverted, even though people don't tend to believe that, because I talk to people on panels. I'm very outspoken, whatever. But in my real life, I'm to myself. Once I have to, like, I'm one of the covert people. When I have to get shine, I shine, and you don't know any difference. Like you, in fact, KTS worker, that's my code switching. That's my code switching. KTS workers who's in the chat. Um, when I am around people, you think I'm a person who's alive at a party. I speak to people. I shake babies and kiss hands. To throw that around there. But on my own, I'm by myself. I'm by myself all the time. So I do get that. I do get the sentiment of all of that. Um, Locksmith Jeremy has a question for us. And by the way, for those who are in the chat, if you have any questions about us for in the panel before we start wrapping up here, feel free to put your stuff in the chat right now, and I'll feel free to read it out. But Locksmith has a question. He says, how should one deal with an avoided covert an avoiding covert narcissist? Is stoic being the right way? I'm gonna say that. Is that it? Is that, would you believe that if you're dealing with somebody like that? Because I'm assuming Locksmith has somebody very specific in mind. But do we believe that if we're dealing with someone who is a covert narcissist, is stoic being the right course of action? And I'll start with you, General Specific.
Well, I mean, what's the old saying on the interwebs, right? Go to the YouTubes, as a good old Bernie said. Folks, you go to the YouTubes. Don't feed the trolls. When you don't feed the trolls, they seek energy. They're energetic vampires, and when you just, there's nothing worse than, or actually, I think what would be worse is recognizing trolls and thanking them for helping to put food on your table with their hate watching, because no one is a bigger fan than those that hate you the most. So the fact that I always thank them all the time. I'm like, thank you guys. No one is a bigger fan than you guys, coming on to all my content, trying to poke holes in it, trying to come at me with that hominem, this, that, and the other thing. Thank you very much for helping me put food on the table for my family, from the bottom of my heart, from my family to your family. Thank you so much for all your hate. And I bet it keeps you warm on cold nights.
Listen, as they say, haters are the best motivators. Absolutely. OG, how do you feel about that question from Locksmith?
Man, I'm gonna go and be right, man. You know me, you gotta just stand on it, dog. Just get away from it. But you know me, man. OG do dirty, bro. I'm with the shits, bro. Yeah, bro. Yeah, I'm with the shits, dog. You know, talking like, yeah, bro. I ain't gonna lie to you. You come over fucking with me, nigga, you gonna get paid. I'm gonna love that shit. I ain't gonna lie to you. I don't never take nothing too serious. I know I can't be serious on the internet. I mean, you can't really take this to a measure where we're going to take it outside of this. So yeah, I'm with the shits on the internet. But basically, now I'm gonna walk away, especially if this in some real life situation shit, because I know how I am. I'm most likely bigger than most people that I walk into. Ain't too many people bigger than me, unless you LeBron James or JaVale McGee. That's the only other people that's gonna walk past me. I'm just be honest with you. Ain't too people, every time I see somebody, bro, it ain't like that. So I do. That's about it.
Disto, how you feel about it? The question.
All right, it's actually very interesting. First, like Resla said, I'm an introvert in many ways, but because of my work as a political activist, etc., I've had to learn to be an extrovert in many ways. That being said, I'm gonna respond it in the most simplest way possible. Does anybody know what is the best profession for a narcissist?
Professional bunker buster.
Nope, a mirror cleaner. Somebody that cleans mirrors. So the best way to handle someone who's like that, or who's being trolling just because they want to troll and not take things seriously, or they just want to blow everything up, is to a certain degree be stoic. But sometimes you also need to be sting like a bee and float like butterfly, in the way that you must know when to hit the chords of that individual, and when to revert their intentions towards them again, make them more emotional than what they're projecting. So yes, in many ways it's great to be stoic, but sometimes you have to be proactive in the way you handle that. But that depends a lot on the context you're working on and how you're doing those things, and what your personality is. In my own circumstance, whenever I smell bullshit and it feels like some bullshit, and it has that sense of bullshit, I'm gonna deal bullshit back.
Okay. Well, first of all, Locksmith, make your question more concise. We're not here to interpret what you're saying. We're not here to do that. Make it more specific. You could write a whole damn dissertation. How are we supposed to know what's what? That's not the way how this works. Not at all. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Even Journal Specific didn't want to deal with your damn question because wasn't specific enough. All right. OG,
Damn.
there's a question for you in here.
What's
I don't
up?
know why he talk about Sasquatch, but Blizzy Blind Fury says, I want to know how OG and Sasquatch, I guess he was talking about General Specific, feel about love. I need the wow.
Oh, it's a good thing, brother. Get your son. You know what I'm talking about? Find you somebody you can love on, playboy. You know what I'm talking about? Love to the end of the world. That's all I can tell you. You know what I'm talking about? And if you don't know how to do it, you know what I'm talking about? I can always give you a plan depending on what age you're in. If you're younger than me, if you're in your 20s, man, go get you somebody older. Learn how to cut some grass and take out some trash. Learn how to clean up behind yourself. Yeah, I'm gonna put you on game all the way. You know what I'm talking about? You need to learn how to do everything so you can be on your own, because obviously you out here struggling. You know what I'm talking about? And we need somebody to get you right. So you're going to need you a hot grandmama or a hot thought mama. You know what I'm talking about? 35-year-old already, a grandmama. She going to put you on game, knock her down a couple of times. Like my boy LA say, give 100%. That way you get all the cars you need and all the money in your pocket. You become a sugar baby, right? And then after that, you step your game on up and you find you somebody. Once you realize what type of man you is, you go get yourself together. And you go find that person that's out there. Now, this is the problem. Now, when you go out there and find yourself and you're trying to find a person who's out there for you, don't follow all these lame dudes that's on this YouTube, the freshest and the fits and all these other dudes. Don't go just find somebody who just like you, dog, and that's honest. So if you able to look at yourself and was like, you know what, let me be honest. I tell my partners that I didn't knock down, you lying, because you know you lying, but you didn't knock down 60-some girls a week, but really you only had 3. Well, you need to find that chick that only had 3 niggas, because obviously you still out here. You're not going to find this unicorn out here. Everybody's not going to be saved and everything else. But if you come across of it, just know that you're going to have all type of problems, because she ain't been through the things that you've been through. Life haven't been presented that way. Now, if you ain't that type of person that can put her on game and show her the way to keep her out of that fraction of these thought mamas out here, these hot girls and these city girls, then you're gonna be in some trouble. Y'all gonna get married, and you're gonna break up in about 6-7 months, because she gonna want to go out here and do other things, go to the club while she got kid and everything else. So, bro, you have to just get your life together, player. Now I'm trying to put you on the way to love.
Look, I'm gonna say it in the most famous words of a folk singer of Venezuela. Cuando el amor llega así de esta manera, uno no se da ni cuenta. El Cauca reverdece y el guachamincho florece y la soga se revienta. Cuando le sueltan la rienda, caballo viejo es caballo desbocado.
See, now you're just showing off, all right? Now all of us is on that, all right? Yeah, you're showing the hell off.
Yeah, because I didn't know nothing you said, brother. I'm be honest.
I'm gonna translate it. When love arrives this way, you don't even know it. And the flowers bloom and the grass is green and blah blah blah, but just like an old horse whose noose has been taken out, you're just gonna run through the savannah like you have no tomorrow. That's what love is all about, my friend. And the moment you feel it, that's the moment you realize you did not even notice it. That's some Latin American wisdom for you there.
All right. So before we start ending out, I'll have you guys close out with what you want. Any closing statements that you guys want to make? I want to start with OG, then I'll go with General Specific, and then I'll end with Disto. But General, do you have a platform by any chance?
Yeah, I do. Sorry about that. We've got a little bit of the hurricane that's kind of affected myself where I'm at here in my area. So my stuff flickered, my internet went out. Yeah, I do have a platform. It's quite interesting, and I actually have listen. My platform. A lot of people think that because I speak the truth that I'm a little less than delicate about the things of the world, and I have to be like Kanye. We saw what happened to Kanye when he spoke a little bit of the truth, right?
That's a fact.
And so I'm a guy who's not afraid to tell the truth. I had a video about 4 or 5 years ago that I came out where said "Make Black Men Great Again," and I'm looking for black men to have conversations with.
Black men great again. Whoa. Okay.
Well, a lot of people don't realize this.
OG.
Well, a lot of
people threw me off.
Hey, I'm okay. Look, so I'm gonna tell you this: OG do dirty believe that America is nigga, sir. I believe that all these people over here is retarded. I don't believe that we really doing nothing like that, bro. So if we on that same stand, I like the way that you talk, bro. I'm gonna be honest with you. I just want to know what days you got the fuckery, because I'm not on YouTube to inspire and grant and put people up in the higher space. I'm not fresh and fit and all the rest of these niggas.
Yeah.
I'm OG do dirt. I'm trying to keep you in the right space, but I like what you're spitting, because if you're gonna spit the truth, I'll come over there and watch it. Just let me know what day you having the fucker. I can come on up there, and you know what I'm saying? We can have some fun. You know what I'm talking about?
Do me a favor, General. Put your channel in the back chat so I
They
we'll
need to
make sure
stop by the drop-by discussion with me and Resla on Tuesday. Was it Tuesday
absolutely.
nights? Oh yeah, bro. Yeah, well, we cut up over there. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, and OG, if you got a channel too, if you could put that in the back chat, well, anyone that's got a channel, I would appreciate that. Hold on, let me go to my channel.
I fortunately don't have much time to do things in YouTube or any other worlds. My activities in America keep me extremely busy. What I'm doing here is I'm trying to fix the problems that we are,
Is that in the right spot for you?
Well, whenever you can, it's fine. I think that at this point, a lot of people have a lot of stuff that they can be able to spread, and everybody has a really good message. While you may not be able to do something now, you could be able to do it later. 'Cause trust me, I could say this probably the same thing as OG is saying, and I think even Journal Specific will even say it. The stuff that we're talking about, the way how we convey to people, we could have been doing this a long time ago. So it's not about when you could have started it; it's the fact that you should get started.
Amen. Well said. And the reason why I say make black men great again, and I'll just kind of end it with the land the plane with this. A lot of people don't realize it, but here, let me move this over to my main screen. A lot of people don't realize it, but as of late as the 1920s, that black families had the highest nuclear stay together, even biblical ratio of any of the demographics in the United States. Sorry, Asians. Sorry, Whitey. Sorry, any of these other people. Blacks had it. Were holding it down. And so when you look at it now in 2024, and it's upwards of 75% of all black family or black homes are single moms, you have to ask yourself, is it a bug or a feature? Is it a feature of the design in order to try to destroy the black families? For whatever frickin' purpose, whether it's child sacrifice. I mean, when more black kids are being aborted in New York City than are being born every year, that's a problem. That should get some attention. But those are my thoughts, and I really do think that due to welfare and the social safety nets, not only has immigration been saturated in a negative way, also the big daddy government has replaced the black man in these homes, and I think it's an absolute shame. I think it speaks to the degradation of the United States of America, which I do care about, and I care about my black brothers, I care about my Asian brothers, I care about my Hispanic brothers, I care about my white brothers, I care about America and those that love this country and want to see it actually achieve and get back to what it should be. So that's my focus. That's my goal. And I will continue to speak that truth until someone stands on my neck long enough to prevent me from
Jesus Christ.
until somebody until somebody tries to
with the head is okay.
yeah,
Okay, I like it. Okay,
until somebody
okay.
tries to help me kick my addiction to oxygen, as Jericho Green would say. Yeah. So
Oh my goodness.
That was nice. I like that last part too.
That was wild. Oh shit.
Okay.
I love it. Oh,
What you-
that was crazy.
God damn it.
So let me talk about something that's already happening with KTS work in the chat. So you said so KTS worker says that she works with many people. By the way, she's a psychiatrist, like social worker. She partners with many people or whatever. But one of the things she was also talking about, she spoke to many men, whether they are Marines, whether they're former Army, or all that different stuff, right? Keep in mind that everybody that I talk to, or even who comes up on my panels, or even on in multiple areas of the world, not everybody served. Again, I have no problem with anyone who served. Most firstborns in my family served. I happen to be one of the first that just didn't serve and actually went straight into college. Not because I didn't want to, but because it was a promise that I made and that I never really went in afterwards because I got me a career that I think I should have still went in anyway. But we all hear things that we don't necessarily may agree with, but we can take the time to understand what's going on. I'm not even saying that you're not doing that, KTS. I'm not saying that at all. But we all have different opinions, and that's the entire premise of it, is to hear what other people are saying, even if we don't like it or even if we disagree, or for anyone, whether it's anyone in this chat. But we try to understand why exactly do they have the particular point. We cut down to it. And if anything, if we need to have a specific conversation in the future about it, then we chop it up. Whether you want to send me an email, you know how to send me an email. It's at wrestleropinionated@gmail.com. You can hit me up on any of my social medias, if anything, because I like to hear discussions from a lot of different areas, which is why the segment that I put up for the show, yes, it's at the Wrestler channel, but the segment for the show is opinionated, so that we can actually do all this stuff. We can have all these conversations, because too many times we get on other people's panels or we have these conversations and they don't necessarily get to where we got to go to. Sometimes I just love having conversations that get down to the last question that we just cannot get an answer to, because I think that's a great place to be, rather than we get to all of the questions that just get grenades thrown at them, and everybody goes through all of the quote fallacies that we've gone through, and we never really touch root on what the things that really
If
matter.
if I may say, wrestler, before I step down because I do
No,
have
you
to
absolutely
move on.
cannot. No, I'm messing with you. I'm messing with you. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Just to give a perspective, real simple, and to close with this. In my case, for example, one thing that I am is I'm born in Costa Rica. I'm half Costa Rican, half Venezuelan. I lived in the United States. Um, you mentioned something about military. In my case, as somebody from Costa Rica, we abolished military 74 years ago, and we have a an extreme reaction against militarism and against military in its total. We part of my heritage as a democracy, as a republic, is that we consider military to be extremely anti freedom, anti independence, etc. But I also lived through a military coup in Venezuela when I was 14, 15 years old, when Hugo Chavez tried to take the power out of Carlos Andres Perez. I know what it is to live a military coup. So in that type of conversation, I have to excuse myself, because I am utterly and completely biased. If somebody of North America tells me I served, my response as a Costa Rican and Central American is I don't give a damn. Your service for a military, U.S. military, doesn't mean anything to me in that way. But making that clear, the type of work that I do here in Central America, I'm working in the issues of irregular migration. I have taken dead bodies from the Darien Gap, as well as the Rio Grande in the Mexico border. I have worked with the people that have irregularly moved. I have walked with the caravans that were happening here, documenting and helping to document that type of situation. One of my major things is I work in the drug policy reform, the end of the war on drugs. That is one of the major components that is hitting the migration issue very hard. And I work in democracy. I work in the republic. I work in Afro-Indigenous issues, etc. So for us down here, there are many things of the United States that we need to put on the table and start having more in-depth conversation in the relation between United States of America versus Latin America, and all those components in that sense. So I'm here for that. I'm controversial myself. I'm I think I've shown that I know what I'm talking about, and hopefully you'll have me. And then those conversations, I can give elements to improve in that sense. So I thank you for this, uh, and I'm hope I can come back and in many capacities and help in every single way I can, because I love having these conversations to myself.
Well, like I said, the premise of the channel is to have conversation, whether they are the good one, they're difficult, all that stuff. That, and I get it. That's not about, to some people. It's about business. About, I can let you guys know. I do pretty well for myself as is. But at the same time, I like to have conversations about many stuff, because we have so many channels that promote. Let's just be honest, debauchery, and we don't have enough channels that really just have open panel conversations to really just have the things that really matter. The one most open panels I see is really it's got a niche. It's mostly very constricted as to what people are talking about. And if just to say if there is somebody who goes up against the grain, that person tends to get really, just to be honest, ostracized. So it's not a necessarily the most consistent place to be. I am always willing to hear someone's point of view that even if I don't necessarily agree with it, to hear it because it's the only way I can understand it. Even if I think that someone is the worst person in the world, the only way to defeat the person that you're looking at is to know thy enemy, right? It's the only way. So that means you need to be able to listen to what they're saying to understand their strategies to be able to go up against them. So the idea of cutting people out and all this other stuff is not it. Now, with that being said, we got plenty of trolls that are sitting out here, plenty of people with bad intentions. So we have to do our due diligence. We have to be very vigilant in the people that we want to have a conversation, which is why I very much appreciate OG you coming up, Disto you coming up. I think this is your second time up here. And of course, thank you for coming up, General Specific. I know you were in the chat last time, and me and OG. Oh, actually, you was in the chat with me and OG at the drop by discussions, or we had that guy coming up. We were trying to figure out what exactly he was going to be doing. That's how I remember seeing your name the first time. But I appreciate you coming up as well. I'm gonna definitely check out your channel. So if anyone who hasn't, please be sure to check out General Specific. I know I'm going to make sure that we got some good going on here. And anytime you feel like coming up again, I wholeheartedly appreciate it.
Stop
With
mess with us.
Say again, OG.
Now just tell them, just make sure y'all stop doing mess with us.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Guys, I will be doing a stream tomorrow. God forbid if nothing goes crazy in the damn sky or some people out here start doing some craziness. I will be doing a stream tomorrow. So feel free to know to at least pay attention to when I'm going to be dropping stuff. Guys, thank you for coming by. I'm gonna drop you real quick so I can do my closeout with everybody. And I appreciate you guys coming here.
As my people say, Beshko Lava, pura vida.
You hear this guy doing this shit again. Get the fuck off my stream. God damn it.
All right,
OG,
bro.
I check you out in the morning, man. Thank you for coming by. So, guys, that was our stream for today. I'm going to get off so I can make sure I take care of whatever going on in the rest of the world. I thought it was a pretty conversation. I thought it was a good conversation. We could have gone longer or whatever, but I do like to be like you guys. I like to get off. I like to be able to talk to other people. I like to be able to see what's going on in the chat. I like to be able to check out other people's streams as well. But I guess the most of all point that I want to put up is that as we wrap up today, as we wrap up into the day today on this episode of Opinionated, I hope you found that this conversation on logical fallacies was a fascinating one, at least for you. I know I did. I like to hear other people's opinions and other people's points when it comes to particular things. And I want you guys to remember that the goal isn't to win the argument. It is to be very effective. It is to know that you have a better perspective on what's going on so that you can have more thoughtful conversation. So I want you to go out there. I want you to spot those logical fallacies, whether it's the very creators that you love to watch, yours included, or whether you're out in your own personal lives. And I want, most of all, figure out ways to keep it respectful. If you have not already, please, folks, like this video, like the video. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button if you have not already. And if you already done two of those things, share this video with your friends because let's face it, we all know someone who could use a little bit of help when it comes to the argument department. With that being said, love you guys, appreciate you guys, and of course, stay opinion. See you on the next one.